welcome to GameFace episode 178 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. I'm Shane Satterfield, but you can just call me the Hamburglar.
Oh, yeah, you are wearing that shirt.
And this is Matt Kyle. You can find us on Twitter. I'm at Dinfire. He's at mkyle.
Mm-hmm. At least you're not Father Shane again.
Yeah. That'll come. People still call me that.
Yeah, I know.
I'm probably too fat to wear it now. I haven't tried to wear it for a while.
Well, clearly they caught you embezzling the funds.
They did, yes.
And
what funds are those?
took away your private jet and put you in jail. So, happens to all of them eventually.
Yep. So we're here to talk to you guys about the biggest and brightest in games, and there's nothing bigger or brighter this week than Gamescom 2019. So we're going to get into all of that stuff. A couple more things. Sifted Fantasy League, locked out. Taking no more new people, so if you are interested in that, it's too late now.
Fantasy is over.
Yep, we're getting set up for our draft. If you're in the league, stay tuned. You're going to get a notice about our draft day and time pretty soon. What else we got? Note, Labor Day weekend, which is not this weekend, but the weekend after. I am outie. I am going back to the East Coast for the long weekend, and unfortunately, I couldn't afford flights on like Friday and Monday because they were outrageous. So I'm actually leaving on Thursday and then getting back here on Tuesday. So week after next, there will not be a GameFace on Tuesday. And then Labor Day weekend, there will not be a 2 days high score. I'm going to take a few days off. I think I've earned it. I think I've just worked now like 18 days straight again. So definitely need a little bit of time off. I'm going to go home and see the family for a couple days. And
I can't believe that's that soon.
Yeah, it's coming up fast. And you guys should do the same. Should disconnect for a weekend, get together with some friends, with some family, do some barbecuing, and have some fun, and get off of Twitter and Facebook and all that other crap for a little bit and just kind of recharge. But anyway, Gamescom is going on right now. It all kicked off yesterday. Before we get into the particulars of what happened yesterday, I just want to have a general comment about this year's Gamescom, and it is gigantic compared to prior years. So yesterday, after 8 hours, so everything started at 8 a.m., and then around like 4 or 5 p.m., I actually looked at the count on our Gamescom content hub, and the total number of videos and content on there was only 30 shy of the entire show last year. So this Gamescom is going to be at least twice as big as last year. It might be the biggest one ever.
Yeah, well, I mean, we said last year, like, we're expecting it to become more and more of a focal point of the year as E3 kind of diminishes in importance, and it looks like that's delivering.
Yeah.
I mean, it's E3 after E3 with even more, really.
Yeah.
Because everyone actually showed up to this one.
For sure. So anyway, let's kick off the show. Let's start talking about Gamescom. We have a ton of stuff to get through.
Also, I've never seen, just on Twitter in general, like my social media feeds, I've never seen so many of my friends in games media in Germany.
Yeah.
The more people I think went this year than any other year.
Seems that way. And IGN is doing like live streams all week. And look, there's a lot more to come from Gamescom, don't get me wrong. And we'll wrap up the stuff that happens over the next couple days on GameFace next week. But I think we've got the bulk of it already because of the press conferences. So here we go. Gamescom 2019. There were 3 big press conferences yesterday, which is also unheard of for Gamescom. That just simply doesn't happen.
You don't really hear the phrase Gamescom press conference much to begin with.
It's like it's not a thing. But this year, it is a thing. The first press conference yesterday was the Inside Xbox show. Ended up being around 90 minutes long, packed with content. But I don't know if the content was all that compelling. Microsoft's kind of in a weird place where it has these big games that it's working on. Like Gears is coming out soon, and that's a big game for Microsoft. It also announced during this event that X19 is happening in November in London. And they kind of started...
What are they going to talk about at that?
Well, that's what they were saying. They kind of started hyping it up, and they were saying, look, like there's some stuff we're not talking about today, but you're going to get it at X19. So I don't know if like we're going to get like a new look at Scarlet there, but they were definitely pumping it up big time. Let's talk about the stuff that Microsoft did show. As I just said, Gears 5 is its biggest game. Is coming here in, about 2 months, a little less. And so, rightfully so, Gears got a gigantic blowout. The big thing that it focused on was Horde mode. Horde mode, for those of you who don't know or have lived under a rock for the last 8 years, is a cooperative mode where you just take on waves of enemies. It's a Gears staple. It's been a part of the franchise for how long now?
Let's start with Gears 2. I thought.
Gears 2. Yeah, I think you're right. That was the first one that had it. And it's been in every one ever since. And while other games had it before Gears, for whatever reason, Gears has kind of become the poster child for Horde mode. So,
well, they were the first. At least the first that I remember.
Yeah, I think there were other smaller games.
I mean, certainly there have been other survival modes and stuff, but this is the first thing to really make it a big mode, a big deal, something they really clearly spent a lot of time on. And then they put it in Halo for was it Fireteam?
Yeah. Well, we're gonna get to that.
It makes sense.
Oh, you mean they put the mode in?
The mode in
yeah. So
ODST had it.
So Horde mode's a big deal for Gears, and
this is, I mean, of all the people I know who play Gears like regularly and a lot, like this is the thing they play the most.
Yeah, I tend to. I played in the last Gears. I played Horde mode way more than I played competitive multiplayer. Mm-hmm. Way more.
Yeah.
And so the Coalition recognizes it's a big part of Gears, and it has dumped a lot of resources into this mode. It's almost made it like a hero shooter. Each character now has an ultimate. And they're different for each one. Again, just like all the hero shooters that we've been playing and seeing over the last 3 or 4 years, ever since Overwatch came out, really. So it has kind of that angle to it. I don't know that the Gears characters really work for that. Because they all kind of look the same.
They're all pretty similar, but I guess they have personality for the most part.
Yeah.
So, I imagine it'll mostly just be a fight to see who gets to play Coltrane.
Yeah.
So.
The best character, hands down. So there's ultimates, there's boss fights, which it's always, well, not always, but the last couple installments have had kind of boss fights, but it's a big part of it this time. In fact, the whole mode kind of reminds me, you sent me a text about Phantasy Star Online this week, and it almost sounds like Horde mode is a little bit like Phantasy Star Online, which I am 1,000% okay with. Basically, you fight through waves of enemies, and then at the end, you tackle like a big boss. Mm-hmm. So it's something it's a design that we're all pretty familiar with, and I think it's going to be pretty cool and pretty awesome. I think it was a good idea to show this here because, as we'll see in a little bit when we start talking about some of the other press conferences, Microsoft made sure that Gears had different representations in the different press conferences to kind of cover all the bases. Mm-hmm. So I thought it had a good showing. It looks good. It looks fun. I don't think anyone's going to mistake it for Overwatch just because of the characters that are kind of a part of the franchise. But to me, it's looking fun, and it's looking like something that I will probably play more than any of the multiplayer stuff. And again, I was in the tech test and already played the multiplayer. And if you want to hear my impressions of that, you can go back a couple episodes and hear those. I was not overly enthused by it, I guess, if you want the Crib Notes version of it. So I'm looking forward to Horde mode as something that's going to, if I were to buy the game, would give me extra value beyond the campaign, because Gears campaigns typically are not that long. Usually you get around 12, maybe 15 hours out of them, and they're kind of finished. So that's Horde mode for Gears. And then the other big announcement they made during Inside Xbox is that there are going to be Halo character packs in Gears of War. So Halo Reach is the one that they put the trailer out for, and that's what we're seeing right now. Mm-hmm. But there are going to be others eventually, where they're bringing Halo into Gears.
Can't wait for Banjo.
Yeah, how long till Banjo's in Gears?
I mean, honestly, it wouldn't
give that bear a chainsaw.
It wouldn't be super off-brand to put Conker in there.
No, it wouldn't. Give him a chainsaw. I mean, he has a chainsaw already. That's like his weapon of choice.
Like a big, roided out, realistic version of Conker. That'd be pretty funny.
That kind of looks like Sonic from the Sonic movie. It's just so weird it creeps people out. It definitely would be the most popular character in the game. How do you feel about that, though, crossing the streams between Halo and Gears in the same game?
That's fine.
You okay with it?
Yeah, it's Horde mode. Horde mode's just crazy time.
Yeah,
it's great.
It seems weird, though.
I don't think so. I think Horde mode is kind of fair game for whatever you want to do with it. It's just, it's clearly not canon. It's just this thing where you just fight endless waves of things, and you want to have fun with it. That's great. Make it the Smash Brothers of Microsoft or something. Cool. Bring him to Crackdown guy. Who cares? If as long as the Halo guys don't show up in the campaign, I don't think it matters.
Yeah, I guess maybe I used the wrong word. I think the word I was looking for was desperate.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if Halo has more cachet than Gears at this point.
Yeah.
Or if you're really tempting people in with Halo characters anymore. To me, Halo's got some work to do. To make me excited about it again. especially with the lead producer leaving this
Yeah.
week. Like, I don't know what's going on over there. Like, over there and over at BioWare. BioWare is losing people left and right. Like,
Yep.
I'm kind of worried about Dragon Age, but no, I mean, it's just one extra thing. Also, like you say, like, everybody in Gears kind of looks the same, so you might as well, like, add in some people that
A lot of people probably wouldn't even realize that they're Halo Reach characters.
Yeah, I mean, they look a little different. Halo armor's cleaner, like not as 90s,
and not as detailed either.
Yeah.
It's like smoother and flatter, and you'll be able to notice for people who know.
Yeah.
But I just feel like this was born out of some boardroom meeting where they all sat down and they're like, "Look, we just got the numbers from GameStop. Gears 5 is not tracking very well. We need something to kind of boost interest in this. What can we do?" And then the first person says, "Let's bring Halo into Gears." Like,
I don't know. I think it feels like a pretty organic thing.
Yeah?
Like just crossing your two big shooter things over, and I'm sure the Gears guys will show up in the firefight mode of Halo Infinite too. Like, it's just, why not?
yeah.
Why not?
Yep. So that's what they showed of Gears at this press event. They showed something a little later that we're going to get to in a bit. Next up, they basically shadow released, whatever people are calling it these days, Gears Pop, which is the mobile strategy game set in the Gears universe, crossover with Funko Pop figurines. That's coming out at the end of the week. After not having a release date at all, they're just like, yep, coming out. That reminds me a little bit of how Bethesda handles its mobile stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, that seems to be the best way to handle mobile things with like kind of real game IPs attached to them. Like, you just like throw it at someone and be like, oh, it's okay, let's go. I mean, they did that with Elder Scrolls Blades too. Like, if you log in now, you get like this huge golden chest full of like things, and it's a substantial drop if you're playing Elder Scrolls Blades. I don't play it a whole lot, but I log in once in a while to get the free thing, and the Gamescom chest is a fair amount of stuff.
Hey, Adam, we're getting notes in the chat that the volume on the stream is really low. So maybe we should bump it up a bit. Yeah, I have chat here now, people, so I can actually see your stuff instead of straining on this iPad. So I can see that someone was saying the volume is low. So maybe bump it up just a little bit, Adam. What's next? They showed 2 new controllers for Xbox One. I liked one color combination, didn't really care for the other one.
What were they?
One was like blue, and the other was like a purple, I believe. Yeah, I mean they're nothing really special. They weren't like new colors of the Elite controller or anything like that. They're just the base Xbox One controllers. PUBG Season 4, PlayerUnknown's Battleground Season 4. Have you played PUBG in the last like couple years?
I've never played PUBG.
Never. You still haven't after all this time.
Nope.
Wow, that's crazy.
Just don't care.
You just had no interest.
Nope.
Did you see what the big story is for this?
Crossplay
With
Is there
PS4.
more? Oh, with PS4. Okay.
Yeah, Sony
Interesting.
is cracking it open, like
Finally.
everything. Finally, it's starting to break down that wall that it has around itself. I'll admittedly, I haven't played PUBG since probably a year after it came out. I'm guessing somewhere around there.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple friends that still play it on PS4. I don't know, I just don't. I mean, I played a little bit of Fortnite. I played a little bit of Blackout, and it's about all. A little bit of Apex Legends is about all I need for that job. I mean,
You're not a big shooter guy.
not a multiplayer person.
Yeah. I admittedly didn't like PUBG when it came out because it was really janky and kind of broken and missing a lot of features. And I know that they've added tons of features since then, and it's probably a much better game now. But the problem is, so many other Battle Royale games have come out since then that I would rather play. Even at the time, like, I would rather play Fortnite than PUBG. And now you have stuff like Apex Legends. Like, there's no way I'm going to play PUBG when I have Apex Legends. I'm just not. They're too similar. One is far more polished than the other. So to me, I don't see myself going back to PUBG probably ever. I totally respect that there are people that think it's the best Battle Royale game. And I will say this, it's the most realistic of all the Battle Royale games. And it's good that they've stuck with it and kind of improved it over time. But there's no hook for me with that game for whatever reason. Like, the hook to me was, it's kind of the first Battle Royale game. That was what attracted me to it. And once there were other options that, in my opinion, were better and more polished, I just kind of lost all interest in PUBG. But Season 4 is coming.
It definitely looks better.
Yeah, I mean, over time, they've improved everything. Like, the traversal's a lot better now than it used to be. It has a lot more character now than it did when it first launched. I'll also give it that. But to me, it's just like kind of this sterile, realistic battle royale game, and I totally get some people want that, and I respect that. It's just not my cup of tea, and I'm guessing it's not yours either.
No. Nothing against it. It's just, I just don't care.
What battle royale game does appeal to you the most, Matt, of all of them?
Apex Legends.
Is it Apex Legends?
It's got more interesting like traversal stuff. It's got the characters are more interesting to me. The kind of the sci-fi angle is more appealing, and it plays like butter because it's Respawn.
Yeah.
But even it never. I think I even uninstalled it at this point. I don't keep up with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't played.
But that is definitely the most fun I've had playing a battle royale game is Apex Legends.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough for me. I think Fortnite is still probably the most fun I've had.
I still find Fortnite really clunky, and I don't know how to build anything properly. So like, I just feel I feel like there's a whole half of the game that I'm not equipped to handle properly.
And that's why I quit playing it ultimately, is because I never got a grip on the building on the fly stuff. And if you want to be a good player in that, you have to master that. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I just didn't care enough to dive into it and kind of learn its nuances.
I was actually a little more interested in the standard kind of save the earth.
Yeah, I had fun with that.
Because it's like a horde thing. I like horde stuff. Yeah. Like that was more interesting to me, co-op horde. But
yeah, a little bit like tower defense too.
It's not news to me that the majority of the gaming world is not in sync with my tastes. Yeah. I grew up a Sega fan. I know how it is.
Yeah, it's pretty strange because Fortnite really isn't about what it was when it launched now. It's about battle royale.
Oh yeah.
And
it's one of the greatest pivots in the history of games, really.
It is, but like when we publish something for Fortnite on Sifted, like it's tagged under like tower defense and all the other stuff that it originally was, and it's almost to the point now where I go in and manually like delete those tags whenever I publish something because it doesn't really relate to that stuff anymore. So it's good. Like it's good to see all these games kind of evolve over time, listening to fan feedback and things like that. And PUBG.
I do think it's funny that Fortnite added a mech before the Titanfall game did.
Yeah. How weird is that?
Think about it, Respawn. I know people hate the mech, but like, think about it.
It is a little strange.
That'd get me back in.
Yeah, mechs.
Yeah, mechs would bring me back.
Yeah, I would try that for sure. Yeah. Like a day or two, if I really like it, maybe I stick. So, next up, Ghost Recon Breakpoint. This was not as big of a presence at Microsoft as I thought it was going to be. I figured they'd do like a huge like gameplay blowout or a developer walkthrough of a single player mission. Instead, we got this, which is a new trailer for Ghost War, which is a 4-on-4 multiplayer mode that also was in Wildlands, so it's not even like an entirely new mode. I get that they need to promote their multiplayer because that's what gets people to buy
games.
Also,
this is a good venue to promote multiplayer because it's an easy booth presence, Like he's just set up the multiplayer booths,
and you have to do that at Gamescom,
and you get people in there and play it. And like it's the easiest thing, and it probably takes less time than letting each individual person play their own chunk of the single player campaign. So
no, you're right.
I get it.
And at Gamescom, because the public is in the show, you have to have something for them to do at your booth.
Yeah.
So you're right. It is kind of a marriage made in heaven with Gamescom. You need something for everybody to do. You have this multiplayer shooter. You can get 30 of them in at a time or whatever and get through the lines really quickly. It makes a lot of sense for something like Gamescom. I'm not that interested in this. I'm interested in the more tactical stuff that they come up with for this than just the kind of more generic modes that they've had in prior Ghost Recon games. But there is like a beta coming, and you can see all the details here. There's like 5 or 6 maps, dedicated servers. That's a pretty big deal. So I feel
like that's becoming more and more expected.
It's almost kind of the norm now. Whereas it used to be something that was like worth being reported on.
Right. Like that would be the announcement. Like all by itself.
Yeah. So you can go on Sifted right now and use the search engine and just search for that term and see how many like news stories have been curated on Sifted just around that. And you could also notice that it has fallen off drastically in the last like 18 months to 2 years because it's just like if you have a shooter and you don't have dedicated servers, that's a story now.
Yeah.
If you don't have dedicated servers. So good to see that they're falling in line and they're dedicated to making their experiences lag-free as possible. As, again, really important in shooters. In shooters like Call of Duty, lags like everything. Like that's the difference between living and dying when you're playing against good players. You're ping, basically. So good to see that they're showing off the multiplayer and they're dedicated to doing it right. I just wish we got a little bit more. Next up, Wasteland 3. We got the first gameplay from that. Did you get to check it out?
No. Which is funny because I'm a backer for this.
I know. You talked about it a bunch of times. So They put out a trailer. It starts with cinematics. It eventually kind of goes into the gameplay.
I mean, I wouldn't think it's all that different than
it's not
what came before. Really.
It's not. Yeah. And they don't really show off a ton of new features either, where they're like, this is what it used to be like, and now it's like this.
I mean, the main appeal of this, I think, is that it's in an area that we've never been to before. Like, Wasteland generally takes place in a desert, and now we're in the Arctic or the snow, which is a different setting, which matters.
I like how they peel back the fog of war in this game. So it's a feature that's been around for so long, and they found a cool way to do it, which is hard to do after a genre's been around for that long. How big of a fan are you of the old Wastelands?
Huge. I mean, the old Wasteland. On the Apple IIe, I must have played the original Wasteland 1,000 hours.
Wow.
Like, I played that game for years and years, all through. So that came out like '88. I played that from when it came out. I played it all through high school. I played it, and actually my copy broke. Like the disc stopped working. And when I was, I think a sophomore in high school, I traded my entire Robotech comic collection to one of my friends in school for his copy of Wasteland, which by 1991 was probably a stupid trade.
Yes.
But the comics weren't worth anything either. But then I got it back and played more on that because I kept that Apple IIe running until I left for college, basically. Even though we had modern computers on the other side of the room,
you just kept it.
Well, because I had all the games. I mean, I wasn't going to stop playing Karateka.
Right.
But no, I played Wasteland over and over and over and over, and I'd do the thing where you just made new discs, but then you loaded up your old characters and then swapped in with a new disc, so your old characters were saved on the new game, so you could go through like a new game plus. You could go through that. I played that over and over and over and over. Like I loved Wasteland. In matter of fact, to me, Fallout is like, and I mean literally it is because the developers couldn't get a Wasteland 2 made because EA. The EA stuff goes back a long way. So they made Fallout. So to me, Fallout is sort of like a poor man's Wasteland 2.
Yeah.
Even though it was a great game, it was just like, well, it's the best we got.
Right.
It's what Wasteland 2 would have been if EA hadn't been a dick.
Do you think so? Because Wasteland 3 isn't really like Fallout.
Well, no, but
it's more like XCOM.
Well, because Wasteland 2 became a very different thing because they made it, 30 years later, after Fallout had already been made. So. Fallout was literally what they were going to make as the sequel to Wasteland, pretty much, but then they couldn't, so they made a different thing. Certainly, Fallout is funnier. Had a more satire to it. I mean, Wasteland had some bite to it here and there, but
this trailer, I don't know, you haven't watched it, but at the beginning, it has a little bit of that.
Yeah, but
it has the same tone.
I like what Wasteland has evolved into, like with 2 and now 3. I mean, I feel like that it differentiates enough from Fallout 3 or Fallout. Obviously the Fallouts have become Skyrim clones, basically. But I like that they've kept Wasteland closer to kind of its original. I mean, not that it was. I mean, it was a turn-based
strategy game, strategy RPG.
No, it wasn't really. It was. There wasn't a lot of movement in it. It was more like you just got in there and you hit attack or whatever. Attack, full auto, burst, single shot, like whatever. And also it was it's old game, so it's very primitive. Like it didn't have any of the story text in the game. When you got to like a big story section, it would just say like read paragraph 43, and you'd have to pull out the big manual and go to paragraph 43 and read like a big block of text, and that was the story for that part of the game.
That's
like,
great.
That's how we used to do it, kids. But I haven't actually finished Wasteland 2. It's a pretty long game.
Yeah. All these games in this genre are.
They are.
I don't know why that is. They're always so bloated.
Because that's what the fans expect.
Yeah.
Like they expect them to be Baldur's Gate 2 every time, basically. But I'm glad these games exist. I'm glad they're getting to make them.
Yeah.
And obviously I backed this one too. Not as a investor, but just as a regular.
Was it on Fig?
It was on Fig, yeah.
Was it one of the first?
I think it was one of the first.
Yeah,
certainly, it's the first thing I backed. No, the first thing I backed on Fig was Psychonauts 2. But
well, obviously that was the first because they're the ones that launched Fig.
But I think this and Psychonauts 2 are the only 2 Fig things I backed. But
where you can actually make money.
Well, I can't. But,
so you weren't.
Because I'm not an investor.
You're not an accredited
investor.
Gotcha.
Because for that you got to go through a whole credit check thing. I'm just like, you know what? Like, I just want to throw $20 at you and get the game
to make sure the game comes out. Yeah. So that's Wasteland 3. Destiny 2 Shadowkeep. We've been waiting forever for new information on this.
Well, we found out how big it is.
Yeah.
150 gigs or something.
Yeah.
It's huge.
I mean, Destiny 2 already is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's over 100 gigs already.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like pretty full on my PS4 hard drive. I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit Shadowkeep on that thing without deleting a few things.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I want to delete anything for Destiny 2, frankly.
Right. The other thing I would say is after what we saw of this yesterday, I still don't know that I know what's going on with this. Like, it's still like it's on the moon. There's a threat called the Vex that you're going to have to take on the moon, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean...
Is that all you need to know?
I mean, the moon coming back is, I guess, a big deal for some people. I mean, that you're back on the moon and the Vex are a thing. But, I don't know. Like, is anyone really playing Destiny for the story at this point? Like, give me something to shoot.
I'm sure some people are.
I mean, the story, the original campaign is pretty good. I don't know what this is going to be like. But, again, I don't know if I'll play it.
But, again, to your point, it sounds like it's gigantic.
Yeah.
Like, it might be, the equivalent of another campaign.
I mean, my install is already at like 100 gigs.
Yeah.
But like, if you're going to add 50 to this thing, like, I imagine there's a lot of new stuff.
Yeah, because I think Destiny 2...
Or really inefficiently, like, structured
which
data.
is possible.
I mean,
because if I remember correctly, I think Destiny 2, the base game, was around 40 gigs, right?
That sounds about right, yeah.
And then it just started ballooning until...
Yeah, every expansion adds more. I mean, that's just how MMOs are.
Yeah. But it got to the point where, like, I needed to delete something off of my PS4, and I looked at the list, and Destiny was, like, at 100 gigs. I'm like, later. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason I keep it on is, I think, because I don't want to re-download all that if I do decide to play Shadowkeep.
Yeah.
But is it Shadowkeep? Yeah, Shadowkeep.
Shadowkeep.
I keep mixing it up with Shadowbringers. Because
Oh.
that's Final Fantasy XIV.
Right.
I'm slowly grinding my way through that game, too.
Like, I almost want to... I don't have a ton of interest in this, but I also almost want to return to Destiny 2 just to reward Bungie. Because it's indie now, it broke away from a big publisher.
Yeah, that is a factor, definitely. I mean, it doesn't help that the Vex are my least favorite enemy to fight.
Me too. Because they're a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So,
but weak points in their chest, like it throws me off.
Yeah.
And if you headshot them, you get punished for it.
You do.
So.
Yeah. So it does switch things up a little bit. I don't know that I want to play a full campaign of dealing with enemies like that, though.
Yeah, I don't know.
Also, it looks good.
I haven't played anything, I think, since the first little expansion thing. I'd have a lot of catch up to do.
Yeah. Oh, me too. I'd have to watch a YouTube video to be like, what's happened since the base game or whatever, to have even context for what's going on in that. What?
Just movie news coming through.
Oh.
Matrix 4 is happening.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Matrix 4 and Keanu Reeves is in it, and Carrie-Anne Moss is in it. And
what?
The Wachowski's coming back, and
what?
That's what I just saw pop up on my thing. And I think somebody mentioned it in the chat earlier too.
Whoa! I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
I mean, the Wachowskis said they retired. I mean, they shut their production company down and everything. So, if they're coming back, I imagine they have a good idea, some idea. Well, I don't know if I want to say a good idea. I saw the sequels.
I fell asleep in the theater watching the third one.
But if you
on a date, no less.
Mm-hmm.
If you fall asleep on a date watching a movie, there was just so much gunfire that it just turned into
lulled
this.
you to sleep.
It did. It just turned into this din. It was like a lullaby.
Well, the third movie has 40 minutes of like a Space Invaders style battle scene in which you don't care about anyone there.
Yeah.
And nothing they do matters because the only way you win is if Keanu does what he's doing at the Machine City. So it's 40 minutes of completely meaningless footage. Yeah. So yeah, I can understand why you fell asleep during that.
I never watched it again either.
I've seen it a few times. I mean, I don't hate the sequels, but they're just so far below the first
2
one.
is okay.
It's
3,
amazing.
I cannot abide.
3 is just a bad remake of Return of the Jedi in a lot of ways. Like a lot of the same beats, a lot of the same structure. But we're way off topic now.
Yes, we are.
But
that's exciting
That's
news.
a big thing. It came through. Which also means we might get a game.
That's possible.
A good Matrix game.
Which has never
happened. No. Sorry, Dave Perry.
Just being honest.
Is it Dave Perry or Doug Perry?
Dave Perry. Doug Perry was the editor at IGN.
Editor at IGN, that's right, okay.
Yeah, who now is a PR guy.
Dave Perry runs Shine. I still feel bad. He handed me a giant stack of Enter the Matrix copies at E3, the last day of E3 to take home so we could all review them. And I gave it a 2 out of 5, I think, and he was so sad that we didn't like it. And I was just like,
come on,
sorry.
Man.
It was
you play other games,
really bad.
You know. Maybe some of them don't know, I think.
I don't know.
Next up, NBA 2K20. They showed the My Career mode, which is the single-player campaign story mode in NBA 2K. Absolutely star-studded. They have celebrities all over this thing. Not the least of which is LeBron James is like one of the big stars in it. That seems a little fun.
Is that Idris Elba?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, they got big actors for this. Having LeBron James, though, in it's a little weird to me. Like, I get why. He's gigantic.
Is he playing a character?
Yeah.
So he's not playing LeBron James.
He is. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But he's, like, involved in it. Like, it's, he has his production company.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to nose his way into anything he can in Hollywood. That's a big reason why he moved to L.A. and played for the Lakers. He wanted to become a part of Hollywood and get his production company going.
I can understand that.
Totally.
His career's going to last only so long.
Yeah, and he's on the downside of it.
Yeah, and he wants to kind of have a Jordan post-career. And
yeah, it's just a little weird to see like the credits and be like a LeBron James production. I mean, it's a little bit of a conflict of interest.
I would say get used to it.
Yeah, because I don't see stuff like that not happening in the future.
Yeah. There's no reason not to be involved with him, especially for something like this.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're the one designing the story for this when your career's over, maybe you're still doing it, and that's a nice revenue stream for your production company. I will say this, it looks really good, My Career. I mean, as far as like what the plot lines are, the actors that they've got in it, I mean, it looks like they put a big budget in it. Do I trust LeBron's production company to handle stuff like this? Probably not.
I mean, it depends who's calling the shots at LeBron's production. I mean, I don't think he's in there day to day making all those decisions. I want to know who the lead producers are.
I used to think that about Jay-Z and his Rock Nation company, but as it turns out, he is absolutely the one pulling the strings there. So, but Jay-Z is a musician instead of a ball player. I don't know. I don't know.
I also have no reason to think LeBron doesn't know how to tell a story.
That's true.
I've never been told a story about LeBron James, so I don't know.
That's a good point.
But I like the idea of like a story-driven career mode and with actual talent behind it. So I mean that has my attention more than anything in NBA 2K in a very long time, other than being good for my fantasy team.
Yeah. It can't be any worse than the story mode in the newest Madden.
Right. I mean, but it would be funny how like if like NBA 2K ends up being the thing that really nails the sports game career story mode.
FIFA's is pretty good
after like but like with the production value and all this stuff, like in the way that Madden started and just backed off of.
Yeah.
I
think it realized they're like, we can't spend 4 years on the career mode every time.
You got to make this into an assembly line.
Yeah. Unfortunately, their assembly line was not up to scratch, and we ended up with what we got in Madden NFL 20. And then the last game that was shown.
Oh.
More big news?
Marvel and Sony end Spider-Man partnership. No more MCU Spider-Man.
What?
That's horrible.
All this crap going on into the show right now live. That's crazy.
Horrible.
That is
Sony,
horrible.
you idiots. I knew we were in trouble when Amy Pascal slapped all her production company crap all over Far From Home.
That is bad.
Yeah, and Venom making tons of money.
Because Sony's Spider-Man movies are not good.
They're terrible. I mean, Into the Spider-Verse is fantastic, but that's Sony Animation.
Right,
that's
right.
That's not Sony Pictures and Amy Pascal and all those idiots that made Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 and almost killed Spider-Man movies forever. But then, Tom Holland, I mean, man, it's because Venom made $800 million. That's why.
Yep.
They think they can do it on their own.
Course.
And now they're making a Jared Leto Morbius movie. And, oh, boy. I mean, they might be back after those movies bomb, but, like, man, just throw, like, $5 billion at Sony.
You're basically just putting everything on a 6-year hiatus.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a good Spider-Man film now for...
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's like, Disney should just throw like $5 billion at Sony and get Spider-Man back.
Pretty much.
Just get everything back
it's worth
in-house and call it a day.
You can make it back with like 2
It's the only thing you don't have now.
Yeah.
Like just throw money at them until they say, okay, fine.
Yep.
Sony will take it, I promise.
Oh, yeah. And then the last game that was shown at Inside Xbox at Gamescom 2019 was Greedfall. Have you been tracking Greedfall?
I don't know what that is.
So it's an action RPG from Spiders.
I like Spiders.
You're familiar with Spiders. Yeah. This game has been tracking very well.
They made the Technomancer.
Yeah. As I notoriously played for like 60 hours, and when I finished, I was like, what have I done?
I just got like 7 texts from 7 different people about the Spider-Man thing, all going, stupid, stupid, stupid. like, wow. Wow.
But this game is tracking really well on Sifted. Literally, probably if I went back over the last few months, it's probably one of the most trafficked games on the site. So people
now I remember what it is. I remember because I like these guys, Mars Warlogs and Technomancer. I like they're kind of the perfect level of like AA Euro jank.
Yep.
Like.
And I would suspect there's going to be a good bit of that in Greedfall as well, but it has really resonated with the folks on Sifted. People are loving the game. The trailer that they revealed at the Xbox event is for companions, and romance. So that's not really something that Spiders has done in its prior games. There was no romantic options in the Technomancer.
No.
There were party members, but there were no romance options. So that's a big change for them for this. I also think just the setting and the tone and the characters are far more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Are we going to see these guys take over the vacancy that BioWare has left?
Maybe.
That kind of like companion-driven, character-driven.
I wouldn't go that far yet.
RPG. I mean, it's not like the good old BioWare games. It's not like they were like technological masterpieces.
No, it's true.
You know?
Yeah.
Like.
It wasn't about that.
It was
really.
It was about the storytelling and like I mean, doesn't look like BioWare is going to be able to step up into that. At least not unless Dragon Age 4 is good in however many years that takes. Like
there's a really good
there's
hire.
a vacancy here.
Yeah.
Like if they can step up for it, they could, this could be something.
This is definitely one to keep an eye on. If you haven't been paying attention to it already, you can go to its game page on Sifted, and right next to its title there's a little gear for its settings. And you can choose right there to follow the game, and that way anytime something new comes out for the game, it will be pinned to the top of your Sift. So a pro tip there for you for Sifted. I think it's looking good. Having played Spider's prior games, I'm not going to allow myself to get too excited for this. Although I will admit, I played the Technomancer until I finished it. And even though when I finished it, I had no idea why, I did it. So there you go. That is Microsoft's showing at Gamescom. How would you rate that?
That's kind of like a B-ish.
That's pretty good.
Be good. It's
Especially for Gamescom, coming off of E3 just a couple months ago, to be able to scrape that amount of
and
stuff
especially
together.
like avoiding the Scarlet.
Yeah,
Like,
that's why it gets the B.
I don't think so. I think it could have been lower if they hadn't had a decent lineup to show.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure. But I'm saying that's why it doesn't get an A, because the rest of the stuff is real good, but the lack of Scarlet news.
I mean, you could have gotten an A from me if you had a strong enough lineup. I don't care about the Scarlet yet.
They would have had to shown some stuff from the new studios.
You would have had to announce like a Fable and like
okay.
some real stuff, like some new. But you're not going to do that because that's all on Scarlet.
Yeah.
Or both. But you're not going to. If you're going to show something that's launching on Scarlet, whatever it happens to be, you don't want to show it running on the bone.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want it to. You want it to look as good.
You want
as
first
possible.
impression to be. You want first impression to be the new
especially
system.
with something like Fable, because it's disappeared. They did that kind of cooperative spin-off that kind of came out but really didn't. Like, to me, Fable right now it needs a really good showing when it's first shown again.
Oh yeah, I mean, Fable's been gone for 9 years.
It's hard to believe it's been that long already.
If there's a Fable next year, it's 10 years since Fable 3.
Wow.
Fable 3 was 2010.
Wow. I wonder what studio they're going to put on that.
Playground Games.
That's the rumor.
The rumor is that they have an action RPG side now, and it's either a new IP or Fable.
Yeah.
So my guess would
that
be
makes me a
Fable.
little nervous, but I'm still glad that they're trying to bring it back.
I'm not worried about it.
Really? Playground Games making an action RPG?
They're good guys. They're good developers.
They are, but they're good at racing
Respawn's
games.
never made a lightsaber game either, but they're doing pretty well so far.
We'll see.
They hired a guy that knew how to do combat,
That's
knew how
true.
to do an action game. So
Good hire
we
to
don't
make
know
a
who
good-
Playground Games hired for that second half of the studio.
You're right. That's true.
I really don't think you get like a game programmer who's just like, I don't know how to do anything that isn't on tires. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, contrary to the,
They're not the ideal developers for an action RPG.
Yeah, but I
wouldn't
think
go
at
that
this
far.
point, Microsoft has to,
Make some hard decisions.
Yeah, I mean, and they had to get it in development before they could finish buying all these other companies. So it makes sense that you just expand these guys that do pretty good open world stuff and beautiful graphics and call it. I mean, I can absolutely see running around with a sword in one of those beautiful open fields in the England they made for Forza Horizon 4. Hell, you could reuse a lot of that England.
You could.
Think about it.
The problem, though, is in Forza Horizon...
Just put cottage... I mean, God, half of England already looks like Fable. Have you ever been...
What makes me nervous, though, is the worst parts of the last Forza Horizon were the human interactions.
True.
Those cutscenes were so bad.
Well, that's what I'm hoping that they took all the people that know how to do that and put them on the other team.
Yeah, let's hope.
So, or, hey, just make Fable a giant bro festival. I mean, what if Fable 4 just takes place at, like, the equivalent of, like, a giant bro music festival in, like, fantasy medieval times? Fable Horizon.
Yeah.
And you're just like, riding horses everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, this is not what I pictured.
Yeah. I would also give Xbox a B. I thought it did a great job with all the constraints it had, trying to consider Scarlet and not kind of taking the shine off of that before a big event that it's having. The games that it did show were games that I care about. They all looked pretty good. I would say my interest in Gears is probably higher now than it was before, and if that was their goal, then mission accomplished. So I think it had a really good showing for Gamescom, man. Coming off of E3, knowing that XO19 is coming in just a couple months, I think they found a good happy medium between the two.
Yeah, it's a good steady drip.
Yep. Next up, a press conference that did not fare so well, and that is the Google Stadia Connect, which is Stadia's take on Nintendo Directs. There was really no news at all other than one gigantic thing, and that is that Cyberpunk 2077 is coming to Google Stadia. That's gigantic, meteoric.
No.
Oh, it is. It absolutely is.
Not really. I mean, if you're in China, maybe.
It's not even the fact that the most anticipated game in the entire industry is coming to that platform. It's that the messaging that sends to the rest of the industry. So they signed this game up. Nobody now can say, I think our game's too big for Stadia.
I don't think anybody was saying that to begin with, really. I mean, it seems to me like almost everybody is on board with this. Is EA? Is EA?
I don't think it is, actually. I don't think EA's announced anything for Stadia yet.
No, I mean, to some degrry, it's like, well, who gives a shit? I mean,
right, because what are you going to miss out on,
You're going to miss
really?
on 2 games per year.
You're going to miss out on, like, Battlefield and sports games.
Yeah. And again, I do think this is largely for I think Stadia, like I said last week, I think they're trying to break into China. Like, they want a Chinese market with this, and that's what it's for. So in that sense, Cyberpunk's a big deal for that market. But over here, where you can pay the same amount of money and get the same game, except you actually own the game, and it won't go away when Stadia pulls the plug out, like, there's no way in hell I'm spending money on that on Stadia. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, the actual fact of the game coming to Stadia, one, isn't that surprising to me because it's easy. I mean, it's the easiest pitch in the world.
Oh, yeah.
You're just like...
But it doesn't hurt them at all.
They're just like, give us the PC version, and we'll take it from there.
We'll put it on our servers, and boom. Like,
and we'll give you final okay on it.
Also, it's probably like,
I mean, every game should be on Stadia, because it's so easy. As long as that game has a PC version, it's just golden.
Pretty much. I mean, it's only bonus dollars for the publishers.
For the publishers. They're like, we don't have to do anything. My guess is that Google paid CD Projekt Red a pretty penny for this.
That seems pretty likely.
And so they're like, dude, really? We just have to deliver our PC code. You give us a big chunk of money, and then we just look at it before it goes live, play through it a couple times, and we're good? Done. Mm-hmm. And I think you're going to see all the big third-party stuff eventually coming to Stadia for that very reason.
Oh, yeah, I have no doubts that there'll be a pretty universal lineup on Stadia. It's just the exclusives are not there.
Yeah, we didn't see any of that.
They're not going to do anything. They're not going to have anything to draw you to it that says I have to have a Stadia to play that. I can't play that on any other platform, which is how you get attention in that arena, especially with a new platform at all. And again, I don't think it's for us.
The other thing that was weird is they put out like a recap of this event. It's like a 3-minute video. Actually, Adam, you can run that if you want. And like one of the first things that is mentioned in it is that it's like over $129 for Stadia.
Yep.
So it's stupid. It's like literally one of the first things that they put in this trailer is how much it's going to cost. And it's like, bro, this guy right here is saying like, and you don't have to spend any money on hardware. And then he's like, buy the Founders Edition for $129. Like, wait a minute, you said I don't have to buy anything for this.
Yeah.
Like,
and I mean, you don't, but like that's not clear in the pitch really.
The whole thing is really confusing, I think.
It is. There's too many weird different permutations and too many, because they it's like really you don't need the Founders Edition. You just need to say like all you need is your own controller and a free account to play at 1080p and like whatever you want to buy if you're stupid enough to buy something that you don't get any kind of local install for. I really cannot emphasize how repulsive I find that. Like the fact that you're paying full price for something you don't get.
Yeah. It's not even like if you bought it on like PSN or Xbox Live.
No,
like,
you still can download it if PSN went away or Steam went away. You would still have that install. You could still play it on your local hardware. This has nothing. Like you're paying $60 for literally nothing.
I have a feeling that will be one of the biggest first pivots for Stadia. Mm-hmm. Is that they're either have to lower the price of the games or they're gonna have to make it so
the publishers aren't going to do that. That's why I'm saying China, like because you
can't get the stuff anyway.
Yeah, you don't have competition with that. Like that's how you get them. That's the only way you can get them. So I think that's their ace in the hole there. I think anything we do in the West is just going to be bonus points to them. I'm not touching it.
Google does think globally when it makes decisions.
Yeah, no question.
It's not worried really about the American market.
And it's a huge untapped market, and I think that's why all the big heavy hitters are so on board, is because they have no other way to reach that estimated 200 million person audience.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of money if you can get in there.
Heck yeah.
Makes a lot of sense when you think about it from that perspective. From my perspective, this thing is useless.
And I think a lot of folks in China aren't going to be caught up on
what
you're caught up on.
I mean, if I
They're
could
like, I can play Cyberpunk 2077.
If I could only play this stuff like that
way.
Yeah, that's how I do it for sure. Because what choice do I have?
Yep.
But I have options for consoles and PC stuff, and I can do. It's not an issue for me.
I mean, this might have been the biggest show for Stadia because it literally is like on the fringe of launch here.
Yeah. I mean, they better hope that Cyberpunk is at launch with them, of course.
Yeah.
The same, day of.
Yeah, they haven't said that yet if it's day and date.
No.
Yeah, so we don't know that yet. But let's start going through some of the announcements that they did share. Mortal Kombat 11 is coming.
Makes sense.
Does it, though? See, that to me is
Why
the
not?
game that I don't want to play on Stadia because of the latency problems.
Yeah, but like everything's going to have a latency problem, so screw it. Like, who cares?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not excited. I would never play
anyone who's
something
seriously going to sit down and play Mortal Kombat competitively is, of course, not going to play it on Stadia.
Right.
Like,
That's why, to me, that announcement is just...
But tons of people play Mortal Kombat super casually. That you don't sell as many copies as that thing does without a massive casual audience.
Yeah, not everybody who buys those are counting frames.
No, not at all. Absolutely. The vast majority aren't, I guarantee
They're
you.
button mashing, yeah. But yeah, so Mortal Kombat 11 is coming. I don't remember what the date was for that, unfortunately. Watch Dogs Legion is coming to Stadia. That I'm okay with. Like, games like that, a little bit of latency doesn't really bother me.
I have to imagine Ubisoft is going to support the hell out of this thing.
Out of Stadia in general? Why do you think them in particular?
Because they want China.
Yeah.
They want that extra audience. And, like, Ubisoft's games kind of, like, are universal. Like, they're real.
They're made by people all over
the world, right? They're very
Yeah.
internationally driven, and they're not political at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Post-Brexit game in
Set
totalitarian
in
dystopia. Clearly not. Just like that George Orwell book. There's no politics in that.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? But I think all you got to do is subtitle them or dub. I mean, I don't actually know how heavily they localize for the Chinese market, but like it's a huge market that they can get into, and
they can pay a localization company like $50,000.
There's no reason to think that the Chinese market wouldn't embrace really accessible open world stuff just the same as the rest of us do. So
yeah,
it's smart for them, I think. If that Stadia's goal is to get that market, like Ubisoft will benefit tremendously from that. Also, speaking of translation stuff, did you see the translation error in the Grandia HD collection?
No.
In the German version?
No.
When you attack in the German version and you miss, in the game, like, it pops up text. It says miss, or hit or whatever. When it pops up miss in the German version, it says Fraulein, which is German for like miss, like a woman.
Like a woman miss.
So in the German version of Grandia HD, when you miss, it pops up a thing that says unmarried woman. I thought that was very funny. I saw that on Twitter. I saw that on Twitter this morning.
That is funny. Borderlands 3. I think we already knew about that before this. That Borderlands 3 was coming.
That sounds
to
familiar.
Stadia.
I mean, I'm not following it super closely, but again, total sense.
Yeah. It's not really a competitive shooter.
No.
So I would be okay with playing this on Stadia, I think.
I think it'd be fine, more or less fine.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone I know who's played the Stadia stuff extensively basically says it feels like playing it on the worst gaming television you could buy.
Yeah.
Like, the lag is just there to you notice it, but it doesn't ruin it, kind of thing. It's just like...
It's like playing on my plasma TV.
Which, again, if you're yeah, sorta. Yeah. I mean, but if you're playing, like, there is an argument to be made that if you're playing that on a thing that you paid no money, you're just getting a free account, you're playing 1080p.
Yeah.
And it's just, sure, a little lag is pretty small to put up with. My issue is, the lag is a problem for me, but my real issue is you're paying full price for things you don't own.
Yeah.
If it was like a Netflix, like, kind of
subscription
or like a Game Pass thing where you get a rotating,
and that's what everybody thought it was at
first.
Because that's what makes sense.
That's what streaming means to people.
Well, that's what makes sense. It's like, bro, charge me $15, $20 a month,
but
and
again,
I'm okay with not owning the stuff.
But again, that's why my China theory is what it is, because again, you don't have that competition there to worry about. Like,
true.
Like, you can charge that money and pay, and that's how you can get the game in that market, and that's that. Like, over here, we have options, and it's different. But I'm sure there's going to be some people that just hate wires or something.
There's always someone who hates something. I've learned that across my life. Darksiders Genesis was announced for Stadia. Mm-hmm. It's a isometric action RPG set in the Darksiders universe. I'm actually kind of excited for this.
I'm interested because I like Darksiders, but I still find the $400 collector's edition inexplicable.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, again, like the whole like buying a $400 statue of a character I don't know if I like is very I mean, I don't have any The only collector's edition game statue I have is Aloy from Horizon.
Yeah.
And I have a nice like polystone statue of one of the Colossi from Shadow of the Colossus, and that's it.
Yeah. All I have are the ones that were sent to me for free from video game publishers.
Yeah, I didn't even I had the Witcher 3 one with his horrible mispainted face.
Oh yeah.
Attacking the griffin, but it dropped and broke when I moved. And I was like, you know what? That's fine.
Yeah, just throw it away.
I broke two things moving. It was that. One thing was that, and the other was my Fallout New Vegas neon sign.
Yeah.
Which I still have to get repaired.
That's worth repairing.
That'll repair. The Witcher thing, I was like,
trash. But I'm actually kind of excited for this. I don't have a huge affinity for Darksiders, the IP.
I kind of wish Darksiders was better than it is overall. Like,
yeah.
I like the first one, okay, although I didn't like it when it came out. I grew to like it better as I kind of moved away from being annoyed by how derivative it was.
Yeah.
Darksiders 2 I like, but I've never finished it because it's really, 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 really long and repetitive. But I like any game that puts Michael Wincott in it, so what am I going to do? Darksiders 3 was fun, a little too Dark Souls-y, it took a lot of the Dark Souls elements without realizing why they work in Dark Souls. But then they did an update that just basically makes it play like a normal hack and slash game, which is fun. I'm like, okay, sure. I didn't finish that either, and it's not even that long.
Yeah.
But basically, I hope Darksiders 1 ends in a cliffhanger where war is basically broken all the rules, and heaven and hell are both going to hunt him, and they're like, how are you going to survive on your own? And he's like, no, not alone. And you see the other three horsemen coming in for a landing, and cut. And it's just like, make the game already. Like, it's been God, when did that come out? 2009? It's been 10 years.
It might have been before that.
It's 08 or 09, the first one.
Yeah, I think 08.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there was a break where no one owned it or whatever, but and then everything went out of business and THQ, all that stuff. But it's like, I know you can't just jump into a crazy epic thing because that would be a huge game. And they talked about doing 4-player co-op for that.
Yep.
This might be something of a dry run for can we make a co-op game kind of thing. You'd be basically talking about Darksiders Borderlands for that game. I hope the next one is that, and we can kind of put a cap on it.
Yep. I will say this. Warhammer Chaos Bane is not a great isometric action RPG, but it did rekindle my interest in the genre. Like, I didn't really care about it, and it was like slow, and I was like, oh, I'll play this, and like I didn't care about the genre at that point. I have not cared about that genre for a long time, to be perfectly honest with you. And then I played it, and I got a kind of a taste of that genre again, and I was like, I like this.
Yeah.
This one isn't a good one
when it's done
but
right.
I'm still enjoying playing it, and so this game has a little bit more cachet with me than it would have.
I was hanging out with some people over the past weekend, and they were talking. They weren't really gamers, but they had played games in the past. And she was talking about how the thing she played the most was Baldur's Gate: Dark Alliance. That their whole family played that, like their grandmother and everyone. Everyone played it and unlocked everything and all that stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, those games have a power to them.
They do, for sure.
There's a hook that, hell, I still load up Titan Quest once in a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm interested in that. I just I wish they just get on with
Right. I mean, I think we all agree. We would just wish that they would tie up.
Yeah,
the main
I wish you'd stop blueballing us on the
frickin'
freaking ending of that, because that end of that game is you're like, oh yeah, let's go, and then it's
can't wait
nothing.
for the sequel. Yeah,
and if you told me, it's like, no, you may not live long enough to see this thing finished.
So they did announce. Well, they announced Elder Scrolls Online. I think we kind of mentioned that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's an MMO that's been out for forever. Not all that dependent on latency, really, but
it's still
it should function.
It should function. I mean, look, I play it on Xbox One, and has latency problems there too. Anyway,
Which means on Stadia it could be awful.
I don't know. I mean, it's mostly single player. Like it's
Yeah.
it's you see other people running around, but I've never had to team up with anyone to get anything done. So
Yeah.
it probably doesn't matter.
And it's an MMO, so it's not like combat comes down to like frames and things like that.
No, I mean it is action based.
Yeah.
But like, I haven't had anything come down to such like a split second timing thing that would matter that much.
Yeah. So that's a decent get. Like they're filling in holes right now.
Yeah, I mean you need a variety, and it's there.
They need this stuff. Yeah.
Again,
particularly
if you want to. I mean, I guess an MMO is something of an exception to the whole buying something and getting nothing thing because.
That's kind of how MMOs
That's how
work.
MMOs are. I mean, I have a whole binder full of discs of old MMOs that don't work anymore.
Yeah.
I wish I could play Earth and Beyond again, but long dead.
It is kind of par for the course, though. And then they did actually announce one exclusive game for Stadia, and it was an odd choice, but a franchise that I actually really like, and that's Orcs Must Die 3. Have you played any of the Orcs Must Die games?
Yeah, I played the first two.
I like it.
I like them.
I think it's an underrated franchise.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, boots on the ground tower defense.
Yes, tower defense. It's an action-based tower defense game, basically. It's very frantic and fun. It's got some decent humor in it. I've had a lot of fun playing this franchise in the past. I don't know that it's a huge loss for the other platforms that they didn't get it, but I think it is a decent get for Stadia.
Yeah.
But it's an indie game that has been gone for a while. Like, Orcs Must Die 2 came out when? In, like, 2012?
It was a while ago, yeah.
Yeah, I don't even think it had launched when Sifted launched.
No, it was after, it was definitely after G4 ended.
Yeah. Yeah, so in that little window, I guess, in between there is when it came out. I know a lot of people will look at this and be like, "Oh, who cares?" But I'm telling you, I played the first two,
I think you
fun.
and Marcus talked about it on one of the earliest GameFaces, if I remember.
I think maybe we did, actually.
I think it was right around then.
Yeah, it's right in that little zone there. So that's everything that Stadia showed. It needed to be kind of its big, bombastic, coming soon party, and I don't feel like it really accomplished that
No, it was
at
really
all.
more like, hey, we have all the same games the things you already own have.
But we really don't, so don't look too close.
Yeah. Please pay no attention to this frame skipping behind the curtain. I don't know. I cannot express how not interested in Stadia I am. Like,
I think
it's completely useless.
I think you're in the vast majority. I think most people feel like you do.
Yeah, I think it's entirely for those markets that haven't been opened yet to this kind of gaming. I think it's for China. I think it's for that kind of thing.
I'm keeping an open
Which
mind.
I think is smart. I think it's a brilliant move. I mean, hey, anything that gets more people to play games is good.
Because those people will discover games and buy others. So it's good for everybody. I'm not closing the door on Stadia.
If the publishers start making extra money off of this brand new market, maybe they'll start charging us fewer microtransactions. Nah, it's crazy.
That's not going to happen.
That just doesn't make any sense.
I am not completely down on Stadia. I'm not closing the door on it. I think if it stayed in sort of its pitch state for forever, I would write it off, but I just don't think that's going to happen.
I think they're going to have to make some serious alterations to be successful in North America and Europe.
And I also think that it's going to learn that very, very quickly. Like launch day crickets quickly. Like seriously, they're going to launch and they're going to be like, "Holy crap, no one cares." And they're just
no one wanted the Founders Edition?
Yeah.
Really?
And they're going to have to pivot quickly.
Pivot.
And they're going to have to, like a 180 pivot. Like they're going to have to make some major changes.
It's going to be a Ross Geller pivot.
But I think Google will. I mean, it has a lot invested in this. I just think it will. I was disappointed we didn't even get like a tease or something for Jade Raymond's game. Like I didn't expect to see like a trailer for it or anything, but I thought at least they would have her in the show and maybe she shows some concept art and shares the idea behind what they're trying to do with the game to get people excited because Orcs Must Die 3, as much as I'm interested in it, most people aren't, and most people don't even know what it is. If that was your big power move, other than Cyberpunk...
If you haven't played the first two, you're never going to figure out what's going on in the third one. So.
And announcing Cyberpunk 2077, that's a big deal. It's about as big a deal as they could have, but everybody already has consoles that they can play that on. This is really a proposition for people in the next generation. Do they want to spend what I think is probably going to be $500 for either one of the consoles, or are they going to want to do this? So...
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I know. And I know what everybody who's watching this or listening to this is going to do, and I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy hardware. I'm going to play it on hardware until I can't anymore. But
I just wonder, I wonder if people who play more casually, like, understand or have an interest or care in the idea that like you're paying $60 for something but you don't have it.
Well, I also wonder
go
too
away.
if Google is marketing to the right people. Like, well, I don't feel like Google should be talking to us about this. Like, it has to, but it should be on like Yahoo and websites like that trying to push this stuff.
I think that'll happen as you get closer to the launch. You know, like you'll see ads on NFL and more general TV and stuff. Like that's where the mainstream audience finds out about these things. You know, like I got told a story before about how one of the girls who came to our regular football Sundays didn't realize there was a new Star Wars movie coming out when The Force Awakens came out, except until the week before Thanksgiving when we saw an ad for it on the football broadcast. And we're like, you've been in this room for like 3 months while we've talked about this movie like every Sunday. And she's like, I don't listen to you guys.
She must really like football.
She does. She does really like football.
But
I mean, it's easy to tune us out when we just go on and on and on about stuff. But she had no idea that movie even existed.
I foresee,
and that's how the vast majority of the mainstream audience learns about things like that.
That's true. Yeah. I foresee Stadia having a really bad launch, like monumentally bad.
I don't see any other possible outcome, but I'm not going to say I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe there's a whole bunch of people that desperately want this somewhere.
I just think it doesn't make a ton of sense, and they're not.
They might get a decent number of free subscription, like people
maybe
free signups just to try it. Like that's different.
I think the first week they'll have a lot of those.
Yeah,
and then by week 2 they're going to start to taper off. I don't think the product is where it needs to be, and I don't think they're pushing it to the right people. So I just think that's a recipe for disaster for Stadia.
Like I'll probably like sign up for a free account and play whatever they got free just to see how it runs. But I'm sure as hell not buying anything on it. That's crazy.
I'm definitely not buying that controller either.
No, I'm just going to use some other controller. Yeah. I mean, that's a good, that is a low barrier of entry. So I mean, at least they get you in the system.
Yeah.
But getting me to spend money, I don't know what you'd have to. I mean, you want to make Cyberpunk 2077 exclusive.
Yeah. But that's what it needs.
Google could probably afford that.
That's why I stressed like them not sharing.
But they wouldn't
anything.
make any friends.
Yeah. That's why I stressed them not sharing anything about Jade Raymond's game was probably a misstep. Because
I do like what Jade Raymond makes. Like
typically, yeah.
Her game could get me in there. I mean, also because like it's different with her game in the sense that I'm not. I mean, that's my only way to play it. If I got to spend whatever money to play it, that's the only way I can play it. It's not like I'm, passing up a version of it that I could have installed locally. Like
you don't have the option.
The only way I can play it is to do that. All right, you probably got me.
I'm going to play it. I'm going to pay for that game, and I'm going to play it. So,
but yeah, right now for me, the only ace they have in the hole at all is Jade Raymond.
Yeah. I think over time...
And I don't think that the mainstream audience is really aware
they don't even know who
that
she
is. So,
yeah, they have no idea. It's I don't know. I think Stadia might be cruising for a bruising in the early going.
I mean, I would agree. I just don't know. I mean, presumably they have more marketing data than I do, but I really think that this is targeted at a different audience.
Yeah. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, that's Stadia. What would you give them for their it wasn't even a press conference. It was a pre-created video.
I mean, in terms of my interest, F. In terms of like the lineup they're building, that's a B+. Like,
getting Cyberpunk's a big deal.
Yeah,
I mean
that's a complete system. I mean, that's a better lineup than the Switch, third-party wise.
That's true.
So
that's a good point, actually. I hadn't really thought about that. Stadia probably does have a better third-party lineup.
But at least when I buy a 4-year-old 540p port of something on the Switch, I own it.
Yeah, that's true. Yep, forever. Yep. Okay, and I'll give it a C in general. This was its last chance. Maybe my expectations for this event was higher because I knew it was its last chance. But with that in mind, C- for me.
I still stand by my China theory, but in terms of like North America, Europe, I still think it's a solution in search of a problem.
Yeah,
game streaming in general, I think is that.
Okay. And then the last big event yesterday on the first, it wasn't even really Gamescom yet.
No.
The show hadn't kicked off proper, but the third...
But that's never stopped Keighley.
It sure hasn't. And the third big event yesterday was Jeff Keighley's event, Gamescom Opening Night Live. Or, as I like to call it, the mating ritual of Jeff Keighley and Hideo Kojima. We've talked about this before.
That bromance is still rolling. No question.
It's not a good look for Jeff, I don't think, man.
I mean,
not that he cares. Not that he even cares what I think, but
I don't know. I mean, it's not like he's editorial at this point.
He never has been. He's never reviewed games. He's never gone on podcasts. It's not what he does. But
he's a marketing guy. He does marketing stuff.
I don't know. I would never do what he's been doing with Kojima.
No, but like, it's not.
It's paying off for him.
It's not his deal.
He gets the exclusive on everything Death Stranding,
and he gets to be in the game. And sure, I mean, why not? I don't know. Like, if he was reviewing stuff or like deciding what went on in editorial somewhere, like that would be one thing. But he just does marketing stuff.
He is doing that though. I mean, he decides the lineup for all his shows, and
but
there's an editorial component to that.
It's all marketing, though. It's not.
Ultimately, it's all for money.
Yeah,
but
and it's not like he's gonna.
He runs the Game Awards. That is editorial. You're giving awards.
Yeah, but he doesn't decide those. He has a panel,
right?
Unless he's like strong-arming the panel into giving Death Stranding everything at the end of the year. I don't see Jeff doing that. I feel like a lot of the people who are judges for the Game Awards would call that out.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I'm not.
Well,
really
if they thought it was going on.
Yeah.
It depends on how transparent the process is, but
yeah. Well, at a certain point, you all have to get together. Like, did you vote for Death Stranding? I didn't vote for Death Stranding.
They used to do that at the VGAs. They'd come to me at the VGAs and be like, "Hey, like
Walking Dead."
Yeah,
really?
I would get that. Yeah.
So I feel like there's some safeguards in place for that. Also, it's the Game Awards. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's. People watching that for the trailers and the reveals, not for who gets the awards. It's fine. I don't really care if Jeff is going to get in bed with Kojima like that. It's his brand at this point.
He can do whatever the hell he wants. And obviously he's a huge success.
And he is.
Yeah, he is. He absolutely is. So let's just talk about Death Stranding. Obviously we've been kind of hinting at it for the last 5 minutes. Death Stranding showed its first raw gameplay yesterday, and we're looking at it right now. It seems to have set the internet ablaze.
Sort of.
Mostly for good reasons. How do you feel?
Well, it might be time to pee on that blaze.
I
know that there's going to be a bigger blowout at TGS. Like, that's apparently supposed to be the big showing of where Kojima reveals all, but he's not going to reveal. Kojima never reveals all.
No, that just doesn't happen.
This is one of the dumbest gameplay demos I have ever seen. Like, he gets up, he pees for a while, he climbs a mountain, he delivers a thing, and he falls down a cliff. Like, that's
all it is.
That's all it is. It's literally the end of a fetch quest. My other question is, has Kojima ever seen a human being walk? Because
they do walk.
His walk cycles are so weird. Like, and I don't know if they mocap this or if they just had to tweak the thing to make it like work the way it works, because otherwise it doesn't make any like physical sense for that giant backpack on him. But like when he walks, like his head, neck, and torso don't move, and it's bizarre looking.
What do you think about this? The urination.
Well, clearly you're using it to grow mushrooms.
Yeah.
Just like
wherever you pee,
like in real life,
mushrooms grow. You can see it there.
And like that, I don't think it's grown yet, but I think that's the indicator that there will be a mushroom there.
Oh, eventually.
Because he didn't pick it up. I think that's supposed to be like it looks like a ghost mushroom to me. It looks like one day there will be mushrooms here.
I will give the crowd that was there credit, because
for applauding for the peeing.
For not. The vast majority of people who were there did not applaud. There was a smattering of applause from like 10 people. Those people need to check themselves. Like, seriously? Like, you're applauding because there's urination?
Well, I'm sure they're up front. They're up front, and they're probably the up front people who are paid to be there.
Right. The paid hype people or whatever.
Sure. I just think if this.
It's funny though. I believe people are like, "Oh my god, genius!"
I'm sure there's more to it than just this. Like, this is just kind of a weird slice they picked.
Yeah.
But like, if this was anything other than Kojima, people would be like, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah.
Like, it
certainly wouldn't
be
getting
walking
the reception
simulator
it is now.
It's literally a walking simulator with a Keeley cameo.
Yeah, this part of it. You're right, though. They're just showing what you do after you finished a mission, basically, and how you kind of get your rewards from completing.
And I'm sorry, but look how slow he's walking through the whole thing. And I'm like, I don't know how long I can tolerate that.
Well, this whole ladder thing here reminds me of Breath of the Wild, climbing.
A little bit. But further, like just kind of walking through these sort of plains and area. I'm like, man, if you were down on No Man's Sky, you better not be talking this shit up, because this is the same damn thing, except you don't have a jetpack.
It does look similar. Yeah, the traversal's so slow and weird. Like, why would anyone ever carry a pack that big on their back?
Well, if you're in a post-apocalypse situation and like you're delivering stuff to all these different places and all you have is like on-foot transport, I get it. You'd kind of become a pack mule like that. It looks bizarre. Like, it's as deep
Especially
as
when
he
it's
is
running.
tall.
Yeah.
I'm sure that it's awkward, and I'm sure there's like, gameplay elements that change depending on how heavy or big your load is and stuff. Like that's probably part of the risk reward element of the game, is like how much do you think you can carry versus
And
what
get away with
how
it.
far you're gonna have to run away. We have to dump your cargo to get away. Because I imagine if you like later in the thing he gets hurt and he has to, it looks like maybe the health system is sort of based on how agitated the baby is, or the BB, or whatever the hell you want to call it. And he has to like comfort the BB until he stops crying.
Well, he shook the baby. Some
I think
people
it's
are pretty pissed off about that on social media last night.
I thought he was like kind of rocking it.
Well, he's supposed to, but
I mean it's motion control, so it's going to look weird.
Well, he talked about like if you shake it too hard, like the baby gets angry and like shaking babies. I just don't know if that's a good idea in a video game.
I mean, we've just spent 2 weeks talking about how video games don't influence your behavior in the real world. So if
I'm not saying for that. It's just, shaking a baby can kill a baby.
Yeah, well, falling off a cliff can kill a dude. Can kill I forgot his damn name. What, Norman,
Jeff Keighley?
Can kill a Norman Reedus.
Joking.
Falling off a cliff can kill a Norman Reedus.
I knew who you were talking about. And of course, there's Keighley in the game.
Talking about how he has a real connection
with
Norman Reedus.
Yeah, there was some deeper undertones there, I think, with that. With someone else's voice. They didn't use Jeff's voice.
I don't know. I mean, that could be as simple as Jeff isn't union.
It's true, actually. It could be that simple.
But who knows what it'll be at the end. I mean, if you can put Chobot in Mass Effect 3, you can put Jeff Keighley in Death Stranding.
Yeah. Like, do you have a problem with Jeff being in the game?
No.
Editorially?
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine. It's like a little... I mean, I'm in Fable 2.
Yeah. Oh, you are?
Yeah. I won not my face, but I won an auction at the Penny Arcade Child's Play dinner to like be a character in Fable 2. So there's a monk in Fable 2 somewhere named Matt Kyle.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've only seen him once.
You saw him, though?
Yeah, he's in there.
And he doesn't look anything like you, though?
No, I mean, nobody looks like anything.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But no, he's in there named after me. So there's a bunch. There were like 3 or 4, I think, auctions for various townspeople or something you could win, and I won that one.
Back when I was at Game Trailers, I had offers to be in games probably 4 or 5 times, and I turned them all down. Because I just didn't think it was editorially airtight to be in a game.
As long as I didn't review it, I didn't really think it was a
I'm not judging anybody. I'm just saying what I did.
Also, he doesn't review things, so...
Right, yeah. And then you're right, Chobot was in a game, but Chobot doesn't review stuff either. She's just a host,
She's a reporter.
She's talent, yeah. So, for me, I think it was something I wouldn't be willing to do. But
in your position, it probably would have been wise not to do it.
Yeah. So what do you think? They also showed a couple trailers for Death Stranding. Del Toro was the lead character in one of them. The other one was focused on this character, this one we're seeing right now, Mama, who appears to be kind of the caregiver of the BBs. She has her own BB that's different, that's kind of spiritual. I don't even know. I don't know what the hell's going on in this game. It's so insane. Like again,
I promise you, whatever it is dumb.
Yeah, you're right. It won't be as complicated or interesting as it appears once you actually dig into it.
The BBs are going to turn out to be like the souls of gamers who were killed too many times in multiplayer games. It's going to be some dumb thing.
Like when you die in the game, like the soul of that character becomes a BB or something.
Yeah, because it's all the theme is connection, so I'm sure it has something to do with like. It'll be like your BB communicates with other BBs somehow, and that I don't know.
I mean, the connectivity, honestly, is kind of the last mystery of this game.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that's what they're blowing out at TGS.
Yeah, they'll show like how everybody playing online will interact with each other and how they can impact each other's games.
Also, probably the best place to do that because that convention center has really good internet.
That's true, actually. It does. It's like lightning in there. Yeah. I don't know that the Japanese are going to care all that much about that functionality, though. That's more of a Western thing, I think.
No, I think that kind of like passive, like mingle player stuff is actually pretty popular there. So and Kojima usually comes up with some weird wrinkle that you're like, oh, that's interesting. I mean, it's got to be better than transfarring.
Yeah, I forgot about that. How excited are you for this game now, Matt?
it still doesn't look like anything to me. It's
Yeah.
I mean, my main interest is like, what is it? Like, tell me the dumb thing. Like, I feel like
we know that already.
What? I don't know what this thing is about.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we do.
No. What are the BBs? What are the big oil things? What are the monsters? What is all that stuff? Like,
I mean, he's explained all that.
Sorta, but like, there's got to be more to it. Like,
I don't know if there is.
I mean, there is. It's just going to be dumb. There's always an answer in Kojima's games. It's just never satisfying. I don't know. Like,
TGS is going to be really important to me for this game because I care most about playing the gameplay. Aesthetics to me, and particularly with Kojima's games, are low down my list of importance.
I mean, clearly there's combat. We've seen people shooting each other and stuff. There's more to it than just walking through a landscape. But like
the gameplay that they've shown of this so far is not particularly enthusing me.
No, I would agree with that.
It looks like really like janky, weird melee stuff. I haven't seen a lot of shooting.
I mean, there's definitely some shooting in some of the trailer they put out right before E3.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't really.
I mean, it looks like a stealth game to me.
Yeah, I mean, but it looks mortal. It looks like Metal Gear Solid 4-ish to me.
Yeah.
You know, like there's going to be shooting, there's going to be combat, but there's also a lot of walking and a lot of talking.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm curious to play it in the sense of like I feel like at this point it's like having your drunk friend in the bar and they're trying to tell you a story and I've been trying to do it for like 10 minutes and you're just like, just tell me what happened. Just tell me what happened.
Don't make it funny. Don't make it clever. Just tell me what happened.
You've been throwing out weird snippets of this story for 3 years. Just tell me what happens. So
yeah, I think most people got really excited over this demo. It's almost, I think, offensive how excited some people got over urination.
Yeah, it's a little bizarre, but like, you know, the cult of Kojima.
It's the cult of Kojima, man. I don't think there's any other developer, even Miyamoto at this point, I don't think has that much sort of leeway to.
I don't agree with that.
Really?
There's one higher.
You think people are more forgiving of Miyamoto than they are Kojima?
No.
That's what I was getting at.
No, I think there's one higher than Kojima on the cult status.
Wait, let me try to guess it. Oh, man.
A recent addition, relatively. Millions and millions and millions of dollars.
I don't know.
Chris Roberts. Star Citizen.
Oh, okay.
Trust me.
But most people don't know who he is, though.
No, but the loyalty to him, no matter what stupid thing they do in that game. I mean, people were asking for like fatigue and heart rate, so they put like a heart rate thing in the alpha of Star Citizen, but they implemented it so poorly that you could die of a heart attack if you crouched too many times in a row. And everyone's like, "No, it's great." It's just like, no,
it's not.
It's amazing. It's just amazing.
As far as developers that people know who they are, though, I think Miyamoto used to have that title, but I think Kojima has it now.
I'd say Kojima's outranks Miyamoto just in that regard, just in the sense that Miyamoto's made way better stuff.
Also, Miyamoto doesn't really make games anymore either, so that does.
But the stuff he does front tends to be stronger than what Kojima fronts.
Oh, agreed 1,000,000,000%. I think some people would vehemently disagree with that, but
they would, but they'd be wrong. So. Because when you really boil it down, Kojima's cult comes up around the convoluted and nonsensical narrative that, if you're young enough and naive enough, think is complex and deep. Whereas Miyamoto's cult comes up around the fact that he's made some of the best games ever made. Yeah. And those are two very different things.
Absolutely. Next up, Need for Speed Heat. They showed the first gameplay of Need for Speed Heat during Keighley's Sting.
It's Need for Speed.
It is, but that's good. I mean, it's Need for Speed. It has cops and cop chases, and I mean, it appears to be a legitimate Need for Speed game. I mean, tons of customization.
I like the Miami kind of. It's not set in the 80s, but there's a Miami 80s sort of vibe.
It's got the Miami Vice kind of. Yeah. I mean, if you look at the promotion for it, all the visuals have that like pink and blue that Miami Vice used in its graphics and logo and everything. So I think they're definitely intentionally going for that vibe. But it's a Need for Speed. There's cop chases again. There's crazy customization, which is, I know, what a lot of people...
There's Larry.
Yeah. Which I know is what a lot of people liked, like Need for Speed Underground for, with all the customization, how you could go into like the tie rods and like tweak the tie rods and get blue colored tie rods. I think that it's on the right track again, which we haven't been able to say for a while.
Yeah, I mean, really, the last Need for Speed worth anything was Rivals.
Yep.
And that was what, 2012?
Yeah.
End of 2012.
It always does this. They always go on these tangents where they're like, "We need to change it," and then the games suck.
Yeah,
and then they're like, "We're going back."
It's almost like the WWE games. It's just like,
Yeah.
just iterate.
Yeah,
Just
you
take
really
what you
don't...
did and make it better this time. Like, if they just stuck to one, I mean, at least they finally gave it to one company for a period of time. Ghost Games. But like, if you just let them make the same, not the same game over and over, but you know what I mean. Like, just we got this right, we didn't get this right, but instead of like shifting completely to how the presentation should be totally different, it's like just make it better.
That's
just
why Forza Horizon is
Forza
so
Horizon
good.
does. Yeah, I mean, obviously Forza Horizon I think nailed it coming out of the gate better than the first Ghost games, Need for Speed, but like you could be like Forza Horizon 2 level at this point with this series if you had stuck with it and stopped trying to reinvent the wheel. No pun intended.
But I think there's like, if you watch this trailer, I think there's a lot of triggers in this trailer for old Need for Speed fans.
I think I see the underground pedigree, or at least the underground influence.
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite Need for Speeds were the early one, like the Need for Speed 3, Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed, the original Hot Pursuit, Need for Speed, on PC where you could mod the hell out of them. Porsche Unleashed on PC is probably the best game in the series.
Really?
Like if you mod
I've never played it.
I mean, they were completely different from the console version. The console versions were much zippier, faster thing, but like the PC versions had a little more weight to them. They had a lot of modding you could do to them. They were, for the time, they were gorgeous in a way that the console versions were not. I mean, obviously they were on the PS1. They were great, and like you could mod Porsche Unleashed to have all the same tracks and everything as 3, the previous game. It was great. It was awesome, and I understand that you need something with a little more depth now, a little more attachment. You have to upgrade your car and get experience points and get points for drifting and all that shit. But like, I really did enjoy the old, just like go on a track, race the track, outrun the cops, go to the next track.
Yeah.
Like, kind of, the tracks were imaginative and looked cool, and they were fantasy. Like some were fantasy based, and I dug that. I'd love to see. I mean, as much as I like the Miami setting here, I would not mind seeing Need for Speed going back to that, or in flip side, taking a page from the Horizon DLC with the Hot Wheels thing and the Lego thing, just kind of going a little nuts with it.
Daylight racing.
Yeah.
It's so funny that we have to call that out as like a big deal.
Yeah, well, I mean, Need for Speed does tend to take place in eternal night.
Yeah, well, I mean, remember the one was all night.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one that just came out like...
Yeah, a bunch of them had been. I mean, it's not like Underground the sun ever came up in Underground.
Was it in the day?
I don't think the first one was. Maybe 2 was.
I thought there was daytime races in that.
I don't know. Daytime races have been on and off.
Which is so weird.
When do you race?
I don't. In my dreams, so I guess at night. Let's see. Next up, so we were talking earlier about how Gears had a big showing in the Xbox press conference, and then it reappeared again during Keighley's thing. They showed a brand new story campaign trailer for Gears 5. It's really short. It's like 45, 50 seconds long.
But there sure is a big monster in it.
Yeah, I found it a little weird that it was so short. I mean, the game's coming out soon. This is probably the last look you're going to get at the campaign.
No, it's not. They're doing something next month.
Oh, they are?
I said that last week. They're
that's
doing something in September for the campaign.
Okay. So it's just like a little tease, I guess, then. Game looks great visually, and
yeah. I mean, so did 4.
Facial animation,
4
all
was
that
gorgeous.
stuff looks awesome.
You saw 4 on one of that like crazy, like 8K, $100,000 TV they had in the Microsoft booth.
It was insane.
It was like watching a painting movie.
It looked like a different game. Yeah, honestly. So the good stuff's buried under there somewhere, which bodes well for bringing this forward for Scarlet or whatever.
I think this one will upgrade nicely.
It's going to be a shiner, it's going to be a showpiece, I think, because a lot of the games are going to create for these consoles first. There's going to be a learning curve. But as you said, like at E3 last year, you and I looked at the last Gears, which was like Max. 3 or 4 years old, running on Max, and it was like mind-blowing how good it looked in 4K. So I would say I'm a little more excited for Gears after Gamescom. I'm definitely more excited for Horde mode than I was before. The campaign, I don't know yet. The last Gears campaign was good, but not great.
Yeah.
And I felt like it dragged a little bit towards the end. I kind of started losing interest a little bit because I know a lot of people love the story in these games. I'm not really one of them. Like, I care still. I care about that group of people and the whole plot around all the other games, but not really on, like, a really deep level. Like, when a character dies in Gears, I don't get weepy or upset.
Yeah, I mean, I admit when Dom found his wife...
yeah, that was a good scene.
I thought that was funny.
Oh, really?
I laughed at that. I thought it was a little...
Didn't he find her in like a portolet type thing?
Yeah, it was like in like a stasis pod thing
Yeah.
or whatever. And it just was so overwrought and
Yeah.
melodramatic, and I don't know.
I feel like that was also kind of part of the Cliffy B generation of Gears. I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah,
he tried too hard to take that franchise seriously. The first one wasn't.
Seriously.
It was just yeah.
Seriously, you guys.
Yeah. The first one wasn't like that at all. He was just like, you know what? I'm making this kick-ass shooter with a gun that has a chainsaw on it.
Yeah.
And it was just this raw, like, fun thing. And then he's like, you know what? I need to make this more serious. I need to evolve it. And that's where I felt like things started.
I mean, Dom was looking for his wife from the beginning, so
Yeah.
it's not like that wasn't set up. I just felt that, I don't know, these big rah-rah guys, like, suddenly, like, you know, I mean, I know Dom is more human than the other ones to some degree, but like it just struck me as weird. Like it was a weird shift from like murdering hundreds and hundreds of things to like suddenly is like randomly finding his wife in a box somewhere.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. I thought 4 did a better job of sort of painting the next generation as actual people to some degree. And I do think the exploration of like why is the Locust Queen in her head? Is she destined to be the new one? Like how do Locust Queens arise? You know, like kind of that was sort of a question in the original trilogy. It was like, why are the Locusts led by this what looks like some kind of like a mutated human who narrates the whole thing?
Right.
I mean, there's certainly room to explore there, and hopefully they do. I'm hoping, and I'm sure they will, because Rod Ferguson is running it, and he knows better than to do what so many other games fall into that trap of just doing Act 1s over and over again for their stories. This already looks like clearly they're moving this forward beyond what they established in 4. So as long as you move it forward and don't just keep, we told you this story to set this up for the next game. Like, tell a complete story. You can throw that cliffhanger on there if you want to, because clearly there's going to be another Gears to finish this out.
There'll be a lot more Gears.
But, like, make me feel like I got a full story, and I feel like we've come to some kind of conclusion of an arc somehow for Kate at the end of this, and I'll be happy with it.
Yep. That whole trailer is focused on Kate.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because the first time they showed Gears 5, they made it seem like there were 4 characters that were all going to have kind of equal play. Mm-hmm. But since then, it's all kind of been about Kate.
Yeah, I mean, Gears 4, the way it kind of evolves, like Kate becomes the focus of it, and it makes sense that Kate's the focal character for this game because she's, everything hinges on her. She's sort of the Ray of this trilogy, because you have to, is she going to go good or bad? Is she going to be, will she save the galaxy or destroy it?
Right,
kind of thing.
Pretty much. Yeah. Next up. Predator Hunting Grounds, PlayStation exclusive, asymmetrical multiplayer shooter set in the Predator universe. Got the first look at gameplay for that. For those of you who are wondering, it's a game very similar to something like Friday the 13th, where one person plays the bad guy and everyone else tries to either survive or kill the bad guy.
A Dead by Daylight thing.
Dead by Daylight, yeah. It's turned into like a cottage industry right now.
I mean, I'll tell you this much: it ain't going to be long before they get the alien in this.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, this whole game is ripe for them to add new monsters, basically.
Pretty much anything Fox owns.
Yep,
they
can
could
cross over easily. I also would not be surprised if this game eventually comes to other platforms. Sony dropped a hint.
Yeah, basically like if things that aren't our big tentpole exclusives have a good chance of coming to like PC.
Yeah, like our multiplayer focused stuff probably going to start coming to PC. I would not be surprised at all if this is like the first game. Yeah. Like I think this is probably the game they were talking about when they said that. It just makes too much sense. And you really need, for a game like this to be successful, you need a big audience, because it's probably going to live on microtransactions and DLC and things like that. So you need as many people as possible contributing that $1.25, $2.50. It has to all add up, but you need a lot of people for it to add up. Are you interested in playing this game?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, these
compared to like all the others, like Friday the 13th and Evolve, where would you place it in the pantheon?
I mean, I didn't like those all that much.
I didn't either.
I mean, This is more interesting because the Predator is such an agile creature. Like, one of my things with like the other games is like the kill. Everything's so slow and clunky and
Friday
methodical.
the 13th is just.
I mean, even Dead by Daylight is just like,
Yeah.
I mean, my concern is like at least this looks like the combat is interesting. Like, whereas like so much of like Dead by Daylight is just sort of sneaking around and like fixing the generators and stuff, and like this looks more like an active participant thing. My concern on this is that one of the reasons the Predator is successful at the way it fights in universe is that no one expects it. No one knows.
You can't see it.
It's scary because you don't know what it is. You don't know where to. Eventually, you're going to figure out all the tells on this, and I feel like the Predator will then be at a disadvantage because he can't surprise anyone anymore. That's just sort of how these multiplayer asymmetrical things work. You even see that in Dead by Daylight, where like people who play that game a lot, when they see which monster they're up against, right? Okay, so we do this, and this, we're good. It's like, and it's not always a guarantee if the person playing the monster is good at what they're doing, but it kind of degenerates into sort of a by rote thing.
My problem with this subgenre in general is how much you have to rely on everybody else.
That's true.
And that's
you need a good team.
That's what killed Evolve, because Evolve really relied on teamwork. Because you have one guy who just like needed to set a trap. Mm-hmm. And just making sure you had someone on your team that even had that ability was tough, and then you had to count on them actually doing it at the exact right time. There's a big learning curve to these games. Mm-hmm. I hope that they'll keep Predator simple. It's like the old saying goes, keep it simple, stupid. Like, they overcomplicate these in a lot of cases where you're like, oh, I need to go here. Like in Friday the 13th, oh, I need to go here and find the gas can, and then I need to go fill up the car with the gas, and I need to go get everybody to get in the car so we can, like, that stuff never happens.
Yeah, well, I think that's why like Dead by Daylight is so successful in that space, is because it's very simple. You do the same. The goal for the survivors is the same every time. The X factor is what the killer can do.
Right.
It's very smart. And you also, I think it's important that you get ownership over your various characters. I admit I'm not a Dead by Daylight fan, but I admit you caught my eye by putting Stranger Things in it. Not because I'm a huge Stranger Things fan, but because letting me play as Steve. Like, I do like Steve a lot.
Yeah.
Like, you might get me back in to play some Steve.
Do you think this game's going to be free?
I don't know. I don't think so. I feel like this.
I don't think they've said yet. Maybe someone in chat knows for sure. I have a feeling even if it costs anything at first, my guess is like $10. And then probably within a year, it goes free to play.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it feels like a good free game in that sense. I mean, I also wouldn't surprise me if it was free and you had like a $7 like starter pack thing,
right? Where you get like a bunch of cosmetics.
They gave you stuff that was so useful, or like things people wanted that like everyone buys it, kind of thing. I'm sure. I mean, you can do tons of weird cosmetics. I mean, there's like probably 40 different kinds of predators you could make skins of. Change out all the equipment and everything. Right. Like there's a lot of customization options, and there's a lot of options in terms of how much you want to nickel and dime people to have those things. So
yeah, not surprisingly, I think the linchpin to this game, the most important element of it, is how the Predator plays. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's called Predator, but I'm just like, they were showing him in the trees. Like, how does that work? Like, is it just like all predetermined? Like if you jump right, you just land on that spot in the tree.
Right.
And that's kind of what climb up the trees.
And that's kind of what I'm talking about. Where like, if that is how it works, that's going to be very easy to predict once you learn how that all functions as a soldier.
Because you'll learn the spots on the map where he can feasibly go.
Right.
And like when he jumps, you're like, oh, I know where he's going. You just point your reticle right on that spot and wait for him to land and just light him up. Yeah. So this I like the concept.
A lot of balance to work out for that.
I love the concept of this subgenre. Oh, yeah. I just don't feel like anyone's really nailed it yet.
No, but I would like to see them nail it. If
someone's
going to do it, I'd be down with that.
Yeah.
Especially if you can kind of make it, kind of bring in other movie stuff as you move forward. Like I think Alien is an easy one.
Yeah.
You adapt, especially because they're also very agile. So like the game engine is sort of designed around doing that. I think it wouldn't be a big problem. Terminators and everything now. So like why not?
I mean, once you get those characters in, you can start doing some fun stuff as well. Yeah. You can start pairing like the Predator with Alien against like 6 people, or you could put 8 people against 3 of them and throw the Terminator in. Like you can start doing cool stuff. Like you could even have like teams where there's 3 human players and the Predator, and then 3 human players and the Alien. I definitely like to see them use
it as like a platform, the way Dead by Daylight does.
They could do some cool stuff. So I think it has some possibilities. We'll see how it all plays out. Up next.
Or it might just do nothing and they'll pull the plug after like 8 months and that'll be that.
Yeah.
We'll see. Or however long. I mean, the license is probably for 2 years.
Yeah.
So.
It's hard to do games like that on a license because you want them to live a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's almost a detriment to have a license. You know, Friday the 13th had all kinds of problems with like the license.
I mean, Friday the 13th licensing has been a mess for forever.
It has,
I mean,
yeah.
Same with like it's similar to what happened with Godzilla, which is like why that Criterion Godzilla box set is mind blowing that it's happening because so many of those movies have weird distribution quirks or like
because they've always tried to squeeze every last penny out of them.
Well,
they're like, okay, we have this deal with this studio,
right?
But can we tweak something and also make some money from this other? And they do it.
And then the people that like distributed that for 30 years ago want a piece of that. And it's like
it starts to get really messy and really complicated. So
Predator and everything should be under the same one roof. Disney now, I guess.
Yeah, so Disney owns everything now.
Disney owns Fox and all that stuff now. So.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I have high hopes for it.
Yeah.
Next up, Call of Duty Modern Warfare. We thought we were going to get like the first publicly consumable campaign gameplay at Gamescom. We could still. It's not over. But what was shown during Keeley's show was not that. It was an alpha that's coming to PlayStation 4 this weekend. I'll say that again so you guys remember it. This weekend. There is a free alpha for anyone who owns a PlayStation 4. It is the gun game mode with, I think, 4 or 5 different maps. This is a 2-on-2 mode. And again, free all weekend on PS4, as long as you have a PSN subscription. Do you think this was the right thing to focus on at Gamescom? You said earlier multiplayer stuff does well there because a lot of people are playing multiplayer on the show floor. I get that. But I don't know. I mean, you're looking to make it. This game also is coming out pretty soon.
Was it November?
Yeah, or no, October 26th, I think it is. So you got 2 months left. That's enough time to show the campaign at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe they're at a point after seeing some of the journalists' response to the campaign where they're just like, you know what? Maybe we just don't show much of it at all.
I think it's more of a multiplayer-focused event, and like I'm sure.
I mean, it's a multiplayer-focused IP now.
Yeah, but I'm sure they'll do some kind of closer to launch thing where they show off the There's too much notoriety around kind of the intensity of the campaign at this point. You got to show something. So I'm sure we'll get some little trailer, direct something in September. Something like that.
And just a quick synopsis of Gun Game. Gun Game, you get a different gun every time you get a kill. So you don't use the same gun or loadout throughout the entire match. As soon as you get a kill, you get a new gun. And you have to master that gun and try to get a kill with it, and then you get a new gun. It was, after the multiplayer previews that came out, this was the mode that the press was talking about. If you read any of the previews, all of them were like, but my favorite mode was Gun Game. Like, so I have a feeling that Infinity Ward or Activision just is like, this is what the press likes. This is what we're going to roll with. And so I'm excited. I'm going to play it this weekend. Are you going to give it a go?
Probably not.
No?
It depends.
It's different. I mean, it's 2-on-2 with rotating loadout. So it might be something that you maybe give a try and maybe you'll like it more than you think.
If I have the time.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. The weekend is not a great time for sitting down and playing stuff right now.
Yeah.
A lot of things to do.
Gotcha. I will be playing. I'm Dinfire on PSN, so if any of you guys want to add me and want to play a bit this weekend.
If I do play it, I would probably play it on Xbox. So.
Yeah, you can't, though. It's only PS4.
Oh, it's only PS4?
Yeah, well, this is...
Well, then that means I'm going to have to delete something.
Oh.
So now you're really...
No, it's definitely not happening. Yes, PS4 only, folks. It's not happening on Xbox. But I am Dinfire on PSN. Any of you guys can add me as your friend on PSN. I will accept it until my list is full. I think it's close right now. But I will be playing this weekend if you want to play with me.
Is there still a limit on that on PSN?
Maybe not. Maybe they lifted that at a certain point. Or now it's like 1,000.
I think it's more than you would ever.
Yeah, so I should be good. So add me as a friend. I will accept it from any of you guys. And I will mostly be playing on Saturday afternoon and early evening. Saturday early, I have today's high score back here. And then Sunday, I have a fantasy football draft that'll be taking up a good portion of the day. So most of my time will be playing Saturday, late afternoon, and early evening. Add me, and we'll get together and we'll play some gun game together. Next up, Little Nightmares 2. This game is published by Bandai Namco, but it's an indie game. So this is one of those games. The first one was one of those games where, hey, we're a big publisher, but we want to have a little bit of an indie presence. And this is what came out of it. It ended up becoming like, I wouldn't say a smash hit, but as far as like smaller indie games go, it was a smashing success at the very least. Have you played Little Nightmares, the first one?
No.
So it's like a stealth horror game where you're trying to avoid being eaten by cannibals.
All right.
And it's scary. The art that they use in this game is kind of ugly. Well, you can see right there, that woman. And typically in games where the art looks like that, I'd just be like, oh, that's just bad art, and I don't like it. But in this franchise, for whatever reason, it works. It makes you scared of the cannibals, and it makes you afraid of them, so you don't want to interact with them. It is probably one of the bigger under-the-radar hits of this generation,
Yeah,
I would
I
argue.
was aware of it. I just never got to it. I did like the look.
Yeah, you can get that game, the base one, the first one now, for like $5 or whatever, if you want to give it a whirl. But the sequel's coming. It's coming to pretty much all platforms.
Looked a little Tim Burton-y.
Yeah, I mean, it does. Yeah, for sure. And I would say that I don't always like Tim Burton art either, to be perfectly honest.
No, Tim Burton art is sort of the same thing over and over again, but it seems like it works here. Or the kind of what they're taking from it. Where I mean, there's no striped snakes. That's the thing. It's like,
Well, the characters are ugly, and therefore it makes you fearful of them. And that's kind of the objective of this game: is that you're supposed to be scared and on edge. But that's a smaller game. What else? Biggest disappointment, I think, was Sega's AAA game. So we thought maybe it might be a shooter from the Aliens team. Nope.
yeah, but once that teaser went up, it was obvious what it
Yeah.
was.
So it's a game called Humankind. It's basically a 4X strategy game where you can build your own Civ, which it gives it a little bit of a unique twist. You're not kind of pigeonholed into now you're playing as Denmark, now you're playing as this country. Like, you kind of craft your own civilization as you play this game. But ultimately, it is a Civ clone. The last Civ came out, what has it been, about 18 months now?
6? Yeah. I don't remember when that came out, really.
It's long enough that people are ready for another one at this point. This appears to be a good facsimile. I will say this. I feel like Sega was guilty of a little bit of bait and switch here on this. I mean, this isn't really a AAA game. 4X strategy games, no matter how good they are not AAA games.
No, I mean, Civilization is.
You think?
Yeah, but like that's like right on the edge.
Yeah.
Like, it's about as far as I'd go.
I feel like it was kind of a little shifty on Sega to say, we got this big AAA game coming, here's a 4X strategy game.
Well, I mean, if they're talking about budget and production value, like, I can see that, but like, it's not a thing that you're gonna. Are you gonna put an ad for this on TV
on the
NFL games?
No.
No.
See, that's my point. That's what I'm saying. Like, to me, that's what a AAA game is. Is it going to get national television commercials? No, it's not. Even Sega is not going to advertise this during NFL football games. It's just not happening.
That's
and
a
I love
big
4X.
mammoth.
It is, yeah. And I love 4X games. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that this game isn't going to be amazing and it may not get there's no way it gets a perfect 10. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is those games typically get big budgets. They generate a lot of interest on their own. This is not really...
I mean, it's a AAA 4X game.
There you go.
In the realm of that genre.
Yeah.
The production value is clearly top-notch.
But look, Sega got me. Hook, line, and sinker. I thought it was going to be something big, and it ended up not
That's
being.
okay. They gave me what I wanted elsewhere. So
What was that?
Yakuza.
Oh, yeah. We haven't got to that yet, but we'll get there eventually. What else? The Witcher 3 was shown for the first time running on Switch. Did you get to look at this?
No.
Ooh.
Let's see.
This trailer isn't too bad.
Ooh, that's soft.
Yeah, the trailer doesn't look that bad, but also concurrently with this, they put up a developer doc that had raw gameplay in it. And
ooh. Yeah. I mean, you're kind of running. This looks like it's running kind of like on like low medium settings.
yeah.
Whatever.
I mean, it's The Witcher on Switch.
The Witcher on.
It's still going to sell like...
It's the Switcher.
It's
What are you going to do?
It's going to still sell like 5 million copies just because it's The Witcher on Switch.
I mean, I don't get it. I mean, I love The Witcher 3 and all, but like, who wants to play a 100-hour RPG that they already played 4 years ago on a 6-inch screen that looks like that. I mean, I don't.
And they're pushing that angle
for
hard too.
Full price, I'm sure.
And they're pushing that angle hard. They're like, oh well, you can play it on the go now. Like at the end of this trailer, like they have a bunch of messaging about it.
Right, because there's nothing I want on the bus like having to ritually rebury a monster aborted fetus. that is my dream. I mean, clearly it looks like it includes all the DLC, which is nice.
No, it's the complete
whole thing.
It's complete edition. It has everything. Yeah, so it does. It does have that.
I mean, if you have
it.
no other way to play it, great.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a great game, even if it doesn't look amazing and maybe it stutters here and there a little bit. I'm guessing it's going to stutter a lot.
Yeah, well, I think more of it's going to drop to some real low resolutions in handheld mode.
That's possible.
But I mean, on that screen size, you're not going to notice it as much.
Yep, that's true. I mean, I play my Switch exclusively on
My
TV,
big question is like navigating that inventory system on a screen that size. Like I can't even imagine.
I wonder if they
have to have
some
revamped
of that stuff.
seriously.
I would hope that they did.
Yeah.
But look, Switch owners who have never had access to this game are not going to give a crap that it looks terrible compared to the other versions.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of a fun.
I mean, I'm
impressive.
impressed.
It's impressive that they got it running at all.
I'm impressed that it's even running on there because
Sure.
I mean, when it came out for the other consoles, it didn't run great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it had dodgy frame rates here and there, so maybe they'll keep working on it. Doubtful.
I mean, the vanilla PS4 still doesn't run it very well.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm actually impressed that they got it to run an open world game like that they got it to run on Switch at all. But yeah, it's a shadow of the other versions of the game. You're still going to experience the story. You're still going to experience all the RPG elements of the game. So for the most part, the graphics aren't kind of a deal breaker, but it doesn't look great.
Again, you're sort of if this is the only way you have to play it, it's better than not playing.
You'll take it. And I would say, if it's the only way you have to play it, play it.
Yeah.
Like go buy it and play it. It's worth it. Like even if it doesn't look as good as it does on other platforms, it's still more than worth playing.
Yeah.
It was our game of the year.
I mean, it's a definitely a graphical feast on a high-end platform. But the real draw of it is more the story and the characters and how that all unfolds.
Yep.
And so if you can tolerate looking at it like that, if that's how you got to play it, play it.
Yep. Worth it. What's
Did it
next?
say price? Is it going to be like $60?
I'm sure it's going to be full price. Why would they ever not make it full price? They'd be stupid to not make it full price, don't you think?
I mean, people seems like they'll pay it. So.
Oh, they'll pay it. They will pay it. I mean, it'll be one of the best-selling Switch games of Q4, guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
Guaranteed. Some people have waited a long time to play The Witcher, Matt. Next up.
But they don't have a PS4.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I buy that, but we'll see.
I don't know. I think there are a lot of people that just buy Nintendo platforms.
Not as many, considering the data says basically like maybe 40% of Switch owners don't have another current platform. I think Switch
I didn't
is
see that.
primarily a secondary console.
In that case, then maybe it
And if you're that dedicated to Nintendo, maybe you don't even care about The Witcher.
That's true. But they'll change their mind real quick once they play it for
I don't know.
a little bit of time.
If it's not Breath of the Wild, it sucks.
Some of them do have that perspective, sadly. Next up, Borderlands 3 had a big reveal during Jeff's thing. It was just kind of generic on the Xbox press event, but at Jeff's they actually introduced something new. There's a new post-game mode called Proving Grounds, which is basically a horde mode that unlocks once you finish the campaign. It's just a good way to keep farming for even more loot, keep leveling your character, getting new gear, things like that. I feel like that game almost is kind of like a horde mode already.
A little bit,
when you play it normally. Because it's like you're playing with other people and there's just waves of enemies coming that you take.
Yeah, it's like you just go from horde mode to horde mode.
Pretty much. Yeah. It's like the horde just won't move past a certain point in the level. That's kind of how it's set up. So it makes sense. But I don't know that I want to... Well, I don't know. I guess it's probably the best thing that they could do. It's a better idea than having like competitive multiplayer or something.
Yeah. And it's at least something more than just having you play through it again.
Again and again and again.
I'm sure you'll do that too, but...
And I'm sure like a lot of the DLC is going to be focused on that, especially, 6 months after the game's been out and everyone's kind of finished the campaign, and in some cases multiple times. That'll be something for people to go back to. So I think it'll be supported pretty heavily with DLC and cosmetics and things like that, and they'll make a ton of money off of it. But you're right. It's just good to have something else to do once you finish the campaign instead of just going back and playing the same stages.
And also, I mean, the DLC for Borderlands has traditionally been very story-driven. Like, you know, the expansions for the other two were legit. Like, they were real meaty, like, extra little mini campaigns, and this is a good thing to kind of keep you entertained until those start to come out for this.
I mean, I would argue in general that 2K is pretty good about post-launch support.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people hate 2K for the way it handles the NBA 2K franchise, and rightfully so. But everywhere else, it's been pretty good. I mean, look at, like, Red Dead. Like, Red Dead just gave you Red Dead Online, and they've just been improving it and haven't really charged people money for stuff. So
well, it depends how successful the game is. I'm sure this will be more successful than Colonial Marines was.
Oh, absolutely.
Which did not get tremendous post-launch support, but
I don't think anyone wanted post-launch support for that game.
Well, it turned out you only had to change that one thing in the INI file, and it fixed the AI.
That's right. So. It's crazy. And then one of the big reveals for opening night live was Disintegration, which is this is also a 2K.
Which is the best Cure album ever.
Boys Don't Cry, I think, is the best Cure album ever. But I like Pornography more than Disintegration too. But anyway, it's a new game from a former Halo developer, and it's not like. He wasn't like the creative director on Halo or anything like that. He is like one of the mid-range developers who worked on it. And it's a sci-fi first-person shooter that looks like a cross between Halo and Destiny. Have you checked this out yet?
No.
Except you have a mech.
I see the Destiny vibe.
Just wait. Except you have a mech. You have like you have these ships and robots that you pilot while you play. So it does have a little bit of a unique twist on it. But the art, like, I don't know if, like, he took the art director from Bungie with him to work on this, but, I mean, it is just blatantly. I'd say it's more Destiny, actually, than Halo, which is a little weird. But maybe he just came to the same conclusion Bungie did, that this is the natural evolution of Halo into whatever the next thing would be for it. But it looks pretty good, honestly. I mean, despite the fact that it looks derivative and it looks like a lot of other stuff, it looks pretty cool.
I mean, if you told me this is a Destiny expansion, I'd believe you.
Oh, absolutely. Until you see the mech running, right? But look, like
I don't know. You could add mechs to Destiny, sure. Like, why not?
But you're right. Like, they kind of have vehicles that look similar to the vehicles in Destiny. That lead character that they show literally looks like a Destiny character. Like, I think he may have actually
7.
Right. Like, I think he may have like been in there and we just didn't notice it or whatever.
He looks like Nathan Fillion's character, really, with the eyes.
Yeah. Which is, well, I was about to spoil something, but yeah, I won't go there. But what do you think of this? Is there room for this?
I don't know. It looks cool. Like, how far out is this thing? I mean, do we even have to worry about it yet?
It's next year.
Yeah, so we'll worry about it next year.
But is there room for it, I'm saying? When you already have
I think it depends
Destiny.
what happens with Shadowkeep.
Yeah.
That's what it's called, right? Shadowkeep? Yeah.
Yep. You'll get it eventually.
I just can't... Stop calling things Shadow anything. Like, it doesn't stick in my head.
There's certain words that are used so much in game titles. Yeah. It's I see it when you work on Sifted. Like,
stop calling things Shadow whatever. Stop calling things Origins. Stop calling things Retribution. Anything with an R. I don't want to see any... Retribution, Resurrection...
Judgment.
Revengeance. Anything, like whatever. Anything with an R I don't need in the subtitle.
Yeah. I think it looks good. They didn't show any gameplay, obviously. That's all just pre-rendered stuff, hopefully in engine. So it's hard to pass any kind of judgment on it. I would say, based upon its art style right now, the way it looks, I think it's going to be hard to carve out its own niche. Mm-hmm. You also are trying to compete against Bungie, which is much bigger and more successful and much more visible than you are. It is being published by 2K's indie imprint, The Division or whatever it's called. Subdivision. I can't remember what it's called. But
Subdivision sounds right, yeah.
So maybe there'll be a little bit of muscle put behind it eventually because it's coming from deep pockets. But I think it might have a tough time kind of differentiating itself from a lot of the other stuff that's out there. Mm-hmm. And then the last thing from Keighley's event is Erica, which was stealth launched or shadow dropped or whatever the hell you call it.
Shadow crap.
Yeah, that's another word that should be eliminated. It's a PlayLink game, which had a big push about a year and a half ago, and then just basically disappeared.
Yeah, well, after that, what was the game like it was like the Until Dawn developers, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And it just didn't do anything.
Yeah, it made no waves whatsoever. This is another one.
I tried to play that with my girlfriend, and we got through like 20 or 30 minutes of it, and we're just like, this is dumb.
Yeah. So you have to, one person plays on the PS4, everyone else plays on their mobile phones. That's basically what PlayLink is. And it's an interactive thriller. It's an FMV-driven, choose-your-own-adventure thriller, basically.
It's interesting now, like the live-action FMV is coming back.
It is.
With this and Her Story.
But the funny part is that the technology still hasn't really improved all that much.
There's only so much you can do, really.
Yeah. But, this is, I think it came out that day, yesterday. Yeah, so it's available now. I think it's $9.99, $10. But if you can't get enough of that stuff, the sequel to Her Story is coming out
soon
in the next few weeks, I think. So you might want to hold on until that comes out.
Certainly better pedigree on.
Well, yeah, I mean, Her Story won tons of awards. It's pretty much the pinnacle of FMV-driven video game design at this point. So you might want to wait for the sequel to that instead of plucking down $10 for this one. But that was Keighley's event. I mean, we just talked about it for, I don't know, like an hour.
Yeah,
pretty impressive.
I mean, it's pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, I give it probably an A- or a B+.
I'd probably go B+ on it, yeah.
I mean, he leveraged his relationship with Kojima to get something that no one else probably would have got.
Sure. I mean, there was more than just that, though. I mean, if it had just been the Death Stranding thing, I wouldn't have gotten. You'd
have given it an F.
Oh, it would have been like.
But it was loaded with important stuff that people care about. I was a little disappointed in the stuff we got for Call of Duty, but still, he got Call of Duty exclusively in his show. That's a big deal. So I think he did a great job on it. The show itself, did you actually watch, or did you watch the show?
I only saw like the clipped out stuff later.
The show itself, like production-wise, it was just like, here's a trailer. They come back. Hey, here's this game from blah, blah, blah. Let's have a look. Like, literally, the stuff in between, just one exclusive after another, was like 8 seconds long. It really got to the point where I almost started thinking to myself, for stuff like this, maybe it should be just pre-produced.
Maybe. I mean, I think you probably see, if he does it again next year, you'll see something more elaborate. Because I'm sure
it was in a smaller venue.
Smaller venue, and also, like, you're trying to do it in a foreign country.
Yeah.
You got to, like,
logistics of it.
You got to, connect all the fixers. You got to get the connections. You got to get all, that's not a simple process. But now, once you have all those connections forged, like, you can, the basics. You know what needs to happen, and then you can kind of enhance it going forward next year. I'm sure.
Yep.
Next year, the production value will be bigger, and they'll have that all in place. There'll be a shorthand in place for kind of the basics, and they can play around a little bit more.
Yeah,
but for a first time, like, I thought,
it was great.
It worked pretty well.
It did get to a point where you're coming back to him for such short periods of time. It was almost like, okay, they did have people on stage, though. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like, people did come out to represent their games at points. But there was just like this machine gun fire of exclusive. Like, it almost felt like you could have just pre-produced all that and just ran like a montage or something instead. It got awkward coming back because he started running out of things to say. He started running out of like how to toss to a trailer or an exclusive. But you're right. For the first time in a foreign land, they did an amazing job. It turned out really, really good. So kudos to Keighley for him kind of taking that formula and taking it overseas and managing to pull it off and do a good job and load it up with great content. So, excellent job, Jeff.
And I think it's going to be a more and more important show moving forward as Gamescom gets bigger and bigger.
Yep. Now we're going to just start picking up the scraps of Gamescom here a little bit. Nintendo hasn't really done much yet, but we don't really expect Nintendo to do a lot until the show proper kicks off. It'll be doing its Treehouse streams this week, I believe, from Gamescom. It did it last year. I'm assuming it'll do it this year. It did drop a trailer today, early this morning. It dropped a trailer for Pokemon Sword and Shield that is basically just a tour of the towns in the game. So this is one town out of many in the game, and they talk about the transit system. So there's a Pokemon that can take you from one town to the next. There's a railway system that can take you from one town to the next. They show off some of the buildings that are going to be in most of the towns, if not all. There's the person who studies Pokemon. There's a store where you can buy cosmetics. I don't know if that's eventually going to be tied into some kind of monetization strategy or not, but they pushed it really hard, the fact that there's these stores that you can go to buy clothes. But that's it. That's pretty much all that Nintendo's given us so far from Gamescom. I have a feeling that when we come back next week and Gamescom is over, that probably a big focus of our discussion will be on what ultimately Nintendo showed at Gamescom. But so far, this is all we've got. They showed lots of footage of this in the prior trailers, so it's not like a gigantic revelation. Like, they show the Pokemon Center for the first time, but they don't go in.
Yeah.
It's like she just walks up to the door and walks away. It's like, I want to see what's inside there, bro. I don't want to see the outside of these buildings. But at least it was a nice little tease for Nintendo to kind of kick things off once the show got going proper. Sony was different. Sony yesterday delivered what I believe is the biggest announcement of Gamescom 2019, and probably will be even when it's over. And that is that Sony finally did what we said it was going to do a couple of weeks ago when we talked about Microsoft buying all those studios, and it bought Insomniac. Finally.
Yeah. Well,
This is like the couple that you know and you've known for like 3 years. You know the guy likes her. You know she likes the guy, but they're both too shy and they never actually hook up. And you're like, just do it. She told me she likes you. You tell me you like her. Just go kiss her. Like, this is what's been happening with Sony and Insomniac for like over a decade. Like, just kiss and get over it.
I think Ted Price wanted his independence as well. I mean,
I also think Ted Price is at the age where he was like, you know what?
Time to cash in.
Time to cash out. Yeah. And I don't blame him one bit.
No, of course not.
He's getting older, and
also you're in a market where like it's better to have the financial stability of being owned by one of the big boys rather than be same thing that happened to Obsidian. I mean, not that Obsidian is on par with Insomniac, but like it's that thing where it's like, well, you one bomb and your company's future is in jeopardy.
Yeah, that's true. You don't have to worry about that now.
Yeah, so I think it's a smart move, and came after a period of time where they did do some some outside stuff. They did Sunset Overdrive. They did that mobile game. They did Fuse.
Do you think that the PS5 demo that was shown using Spider-Man was maybe a little bit of a hint at what was to come?
I mean, I don't think it was an accident, but also I think it's because I think Spider-Man is probably picked also more because of synergy with other Sony departments. Products. Because Sony is sort of the only thing they got going in the movie department, and like they're Venom made a amount of money. Clearly they decided to take Spider-Man back from Marvel, and now Sony's gonna be the Spider-Man company. So I think that's part of it too.
Do you think Spider-Man is what convinced Sony after all this time to buy Insomniac?
It wouldn't surprise me if they're like, hey, we really would like that in-house and we'd like to depend on you to just churn these out forever.
Do you think that's what it's going to do? They're just going to keep making Spider-Man games?
I think they will.
Would you be okay with that?
I don't think that's all they're going to make. They have 3 separate teams.
Yeah. I mean, the one team just basically is concentrated. And the other part, too, might be that Insomniac has been neck deep in VR. Mm-hmm. So Insomniac's done a ton of stuff for Oculus. I'm assuming that's going to come to an end.
Yeah.
And now all that team that's been working on VR stuff at Insomniac can just shift its focus 100% towards PlayStation VR 2.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a smart purchase on many levels for Sony. I mean, I just wonder why it took so long.
I think it just really came down to Ted Price wanting to sell.
It could be. Ted finally just hit that point where he's like, I just don't need to deal with it.
And I would imagine in the wake of both their VR success and their I don't know how their VR stuff sold, but
it hasn't sold.
They definitely are making some of the more interesting actual games.
They're making real VR games.
And then combine that with Spider-Man, and like I wouldn't surprise me if Sony's offer went up after all that.
What do you think's going to happen to Sunset Overdrive? It's just done.
I think Sunset Overdrive was never going to get.
It was probably done before.
I mean, they said Ted had said before, it's like we would be up for doing another one, but Microsoft has to do it. It's like it's not up to them. So I'm sure that's the end of that. Like, that's too bad. I really like Sunset Overdrive.
Yeah, I did too.
After all this time, it doesn't really surprise me.
I wonder too if Insomniac might be one of the studios that Sony's talking about that will consider their stuff for other platforms, possibly. At least initially, maybe.
That would surprise me a little bit, just in the sense that I would say Insomniac, Sony Santa Monica, and Naughty Dog are sort of the triple crown. And to me, I would say just keep Insomniac's AAA stuff on the PlayStation.
Yeah.
Like, make me have to buy a PlayStation to play
play
that stuff.
Insomniac stuff.
Would be the smart move there.
Yeah.
Keep Spider-Man on the Sony platform. Keep Spider-Man identified with... I mean, I'm not in favor of it because I wish they'd just let it go and let Marvel Studios make the Spider-Man movies because they're good, and they left Far From Home ends on a giant cliffhanger. What are we going to do now?
Right, yeah.
But, like, if I'm Sony, I'm like, I want you to associate Spider-Man with Sony, and keeping the games on a Sony platform is kind of step one there.
I would honestly be bummed if their next game was a Spider-Man game. I really loved Marvel Spider-Man, but...
Well, the overlap of the different teams indicates that whatever the next game is will be something else. Because Spider-Man 2, I think, is... I'm sure Spider-Man 2 is being worked on, but I think that's a couple more years out.
Yeah.
So whatever... And they alternate, so I would expect to see...
A Ratchet game, probably.
Not a Ratchet game, I don't think. I think it'd be something new.
Know.
I think something new. I think their next game...
Their luck with new IP is not very good.
I'll put a bet down that Insomniac's next game to release will be a new IP.
It has like a couple VR games in development that I'm assuming Sony's just
not counting. I mean, what's that other
Stormland? I think
Stormland,
is one.
Yeah.
So they're working.
So I wonder
stuff.
what the deal is there, like with Oculus, if that could ever come to PSVR now.
I don't know.
Or if they've signed like an
because I
exclusivity.
do think Oculus was funding development of all that, and Oculus may get on the train everyone else is getting on. Of we just want our games to sell as much as we can,
or just like the train of like, hey, we need to get VR out there.
Right.
We'll worry about who gets to own the platform later.
I mean, truthfully, PlayStation VR being successful could be good for Oculus.
Yeah.
Because people are like, I like this. It's not quite there.
Yeah, Oculus would be kind of
there's this other thing that is.
You sell Oculus as sort of the luxury model.
Yeah.
To people who kind of got in on the gateway PSVR.
The gateway drug, which is PlayStation VR. So there's all kinds of angles to this, but most importantly, like, congratulations to Ted. Mm-hmm. He has worked his ass off for this.
And all the Insomniac people who now have job security for quite some time.
And don't have to worry, if we put out this next game and it flops, what could happen? Like, they're a part of the mothership now. Congratulations to all of them. Well-deserved. It was a smart move for both sides. I think part of this was Sony's reaction to Microsoft snatching up all those studios. But it makes so much sense. Like, we've been saying, like, for literally, like, 15 years, like, why doesn't Sony just buy Insomniac? But you're right. I think it was probably Ted just wasn't ready to do it yet, and now he's at that point in his life where he's like, you know what? I don't need to stress out about this anymore.
Plus, I think,
and my employees don't need to stress out about it anymore.
And I think in the way, considering how the market is, considering the transition to the next generation, the uncertainty that brings with it, and I think considering their success with Sony, I'm sure Sony offered them more money. The offer must have been really good.
Oh yeah,
to get the people that made Spider-Man in house. Yep. Like it's just a no-brainer.
Yep, match made in heaven. Here may be the second biggest story that's come out of Gamescom, although it didn't specifically come out of Gamescom per se. Today, a new patent was discovered for the PlayStation 5 dev kit, although they're calling it PlayStation V.
V.
Adam, if you could bring up that image and bring down our lower third there first, yeah. So, unknown electronic device.
What the hell?
Yeah.
That's bizarre.
Isn't it?
It looks like an office building.
You're right.
It looks like the inside of the 650 Townsend.
That is hilarious that you looked at that, but you're absolutely right. It does look like the inside of 650 Townsend in San Francisco. So they're saying this is the PlayStation 5 dev kit. Now, That's
a lot of fans. Vents everywhere.
Now, keep in mind, not all dev kits end up looking like the console that they're made for.
Most of them don't, especially the first iterations.
I don't know, though. I think it's probably 50-50.
I mean, the Xbox ones were mostly just PCs, mostly just boxes. This, I don't know what the hell the shape of this is for, but I mean, it is shaped like a V, so maybe that's what they're after.
Oh, I didn't even pick up on that, man. You're knocking it out of the park on this image, man. Holy crap. You're right. It's shaped in a V. What are the chances that the PlayStation 5 or V, whatever they end up calling it, looks anything close to this?
Doesn't it kind of look like you could put like a VR headset on top of it? Like it would kind of rest.
It does.
On it?
Yeah.
Like as a unit?
It does. I mean, most dev kits are literally just PCs.
Yeah.
But eventually they do put out kind of factor-formed
And that is a lot of USB plugs.
Like the GameCube dev kit eventually just was a GameCube.
Yeah, just a different color.
Brown.
Yeah.
It was a brown GameCube. And then like
or there was also
the debugs were like
aquamarine green. Yeah.
So
whereas the Xbox dev kits, Xbox 360 dev kits were just Xbox 360s.
They're Xbox 360s. Yep. So that's what I'm saying. Like there are some that actually do end up looking like that. Mm-hmm. It's weird to me that they would bother making a dev kit that looks so distinctive.
Yeah.
If it didn't, or at least if it wasn't inspired by the product that it's going to support.
I mean, the front is ugly.
That's dev kit 101 right there.
Yeah.
You got like a disk drive and all these stupid like jumper. But that's almost all dev kits have that stuff. The rest of the form factor, they're like, what are those things on the top?
On the
towards
sides?
the front.
Oh,
See
wait,
them?
you mean the little slot thing?
Yeah, what is that?
That's what I keep looking at for like a headset thing.
Right.
Like, it looks like something that you would either rest them on or plug something in or like a charge sort of thing.
Or some kind of a magnetic something or other.
Oh, you wouldn't want magnets near hardware like that.
But see, also then look on the side right next to it. There's like a little shelf there that something could rest on.
Yeah.
Like to me, you just don't do this stuff just for a dev kit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of engineering involved there with like this form factor. But if that's what the PlayStation 5 looks like, oh Lord. Oh Lord.
Oh Lord, it's coming.
I just don't think that it is. I just don't see any manufacturer making a console that looks like that.
No, I mean the number of vents on that thing makes me think that like it's probably because you need extra cooling because the dev kits have more power and I don't know. I mean the front of that, just like the indented face is like feels ancient.
Oh, it's
like
a dust nightmare.
Yeah.
Also, like there a lot of evidence points towards this being similar to what PlayStation 5 may look like. I just don't think it's the case. I could never see Sony manufacturing something that looks like that for public consumption.
Yeah, Sony's so like form factor driven with these things. It would be unusual for them to go that far off that far afield with it. But I mean, it is shaped like a V. That's all I can say. It's shaped like a V.
It is. It absolutely is. That would be insane if that's what the PlayStation 5 even vaguely looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope it doesn't look that way because, dude, keeping the dust out of
that's gonna be you need to get like 2 air cans. Like
it's just bad design. For 2019, like I just don't see anyone making that. So maybe it's an early prototype idea.
Although I don't know, like every year the backs of the Priuses get weirder and uglier.
You're
so maybe that's just what things look like now. I don't know.
That's a good point. But I don't know.
It's one of those things where I'm like, I look at it and I'm just like, that can't be it. But at the same time, like, it could be it.
Well,
like,
I remember when I first saw the GameCube, I didn't think it was real. Seriously.
Yeah.
I was like, no way. Like, no one's going to make a cube. Because remember, Matt Casamassina broke it as Star Cube first.
Right.
He had only gotten like half the story or whatever. And then people started making mock-ups that were literally stars. Like the console was a star. And
like each leg of the star was the controller.
Right.
You could take it out.
Yeah,
I remember all those.
People
like,
went
weird
way
mock-ups,
overboard with that one. But I don't know. It's weird that something like that would be so detailed. Mm-hmm. There's no reason for it. Maybe that's PlayStation VR 2. Maybe that's the little module that you sit next to your console now.
Yeah.
That's a
possibility.
possibility.
If they call the system PlayStation V, maybe the VR is way more involved in it than we think it is.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, it would kind of surprise me to see them triple down like that on VR as like kind of the linchpin of the system, but like
they've put a lot into R&D on VR.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Because it doesn't. I mean, to me, that just doesn't look complete. It
doesn't look like a console.
It looks like It looks like one of the like a Sega CD, like an add-on to something.
And like those things on the top could be like where you
Plugs,
put the VR module and it snaps in. Who knows?
Yeah.
But if that is what it looks like, oh god,
some kind of charging port for something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because it's drawn very similar to the way they draw the USB slots. So who knows?
Yeah.
Some kind of weird. Some kind of weird custom plug port. That's all we need. Why can't everything just be USB-C already? It made me rebuy all the damn cables already.
I mean, everything should be at this point. There's really no reason. But, yeah. So there you go.
There's one place Nintendo's ahead of the game.
Yeah, it's true. What might be a look at PlayStation 5, PlayStation V, whatever it ends up being called.
PlayStation V. That's the sound it'll make when the fans overheat.
Yeah. Yep, but anyway, that's it for Sony at Gamescom. Again, so far, we've seen nothing from The Last of Us. We've seen nothing from Ghost of Tsushima. Again, we still got the whole week to go from Gamescom. Day one, though, we didn't get stuff from any of that. We got this, which is even technically a part of Gamescom, and the new PlayLink game, and that's it. Just a couple third-party stragglers. Marvel's Avengers today. The gameplay went up. It's up on Sifted right now. The demo at E3, although, Matt, you think that they may have tweaked some things.
It looks to me like they tweaked Cap and Tony's faces a little bit. I might be wrong, but they just looked a little less sterile to me in this clip. I don't know. The others didn't look any different to me, but Tony and Steve felt like they had been softened a bit in the face.
It also appears,
but otherwise, this is exactly what I saw at the booth.
Yeah, this trailer, you guys have probably all figured it out by now if you've watched it. This trailer is basically just a cut of the demo. They just cut the highlights from the demo into this. You noticed that maybe there was some tweaks to the actual game, though.
I did?
Yeah, you said that you thought the battle was shorter.
The battle between Black Widow and Taskmaster is definitely shorter than what I saw live played in front of me, but I think that was because the person playing it when I saw it screwed something up.
Oh, so they just played
I just think they didn't. They got hit a few times, and clearly the demo was live. Like, there's certainly bits of the Iron Man section, too, where when I saw it live, he got hit a couple times, got knocked out of his move, and had to redo it. Whereas in this, he just dodges smoothly out of the way and does the right move. So clearly what they were playing was actually happening real time, going on. But the Black Widow fight in my demo was lasted way long.
No, it dragged on for me too.
Like the fight on when they land on the bridge and actually have the punch fight, that went on for almost twice as long in the demo I saw as it does in the clip they put out.
It'll be interesting.
And if they shorten that fight just in general, that's probably good because it was not interesting. It's the least interesting part of the demo, though it is interesting to note that Black Widow does have her twin pistols, and Lara from the same developer never got her twin pistols. Because you can see in some of the stuff with Black Widow, she's clearly based a little bit on Lara.
Yeah.
Where she's sliding down stuff and jumping off things and that kind of thing. And some of the combat.
I'm sure they reused some of that stuff.
But she looks like she plays more like Lara Croft than Lara Croft did for 3 games.
Yeah.
So
I'll be interested to see the public reaction.
And there's a little bit of stuff at the end here where you see a couple of you see the Abomination in the full length thing. You see Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel. She's the narrator and she's meeting the Avengers and she's got a Captain Marvel shirt on, which is cool. Some space stuff there. I mean, there's I'm interested. It's just it's not. The thing, I think my thing is, it all looks fine. That's as far as I go, the combat and everything looks fine. You could probably tweak it more between now and May. My issue is that, it has no charm.
Yeah.
It has no charisma in the way that, I love those characters in the movies.
That's what the Marvel Cinematic Universe has done, though.
Yeah.
It made these flat 2D characters into believable people, basically.
And I just don't think this is... I don't think this is even pulling off a vague facsimile of it. It's just not. I mean, they're trying to do the banter, and it's just not there.
Yeah.
It's just not working. And it's not like a thing against the voice actors or anything. I think they're doing the best they can. But, the spark of charisma that sort of defines the property in the films just is not here. And that's what they need. I don't know how you get that if you can't re-render all those scenes or whatever. But, that's my main thing is, I don't...
The characters.
I don't get Tony from Tony. I don't get Cap from Cap.
Yeah, I don't either.
And Thor. The portrayal of Thor is legitimate, but it's like a Silver Age Thor. It's not like a modern Thor where Thor is kind of a Thor Ragnarok kind of made Thor funny and made Thor.
He's like the comic relief.
Right.
He's a wisecracker.
He's more fun now.
Him and Tony.
As Tony sort of became more and more PTSD driven,
right.
Thor stepped up to be the funny one.
Filled that void. Yeah.
And you don't have to mirror that exactly in a game, but it's just it feels very paint by numbers right now, and I think they need to break those characters out of those sort of it feels like you've gone back to square one with some of them and their portrayals, and you're not taking the right lessons from how the movies show them. And I think
the movies learn some lessons.
I think that's really where you've got the acting talent to do that with those. That voice cast is amazing. Is some of the best in the business.
They're the biggest and the best.
You could give them the right material, and they could make these characters shine. And it's just not happening in these clips so far.
I'll be interested to see the public response to it.
I mean, so far what I've seen has been pretty positive.
Has it?
I mean, it's just especially because, like we talked before, like the negative response and write-ups at E3 had everyone expecting the worst, and this is the same as the leaked footage that came out a while ago, and everyone's saying the same. It's like, yeah, doesn't look great, but it looks fine. It doesn't look like the disaster that like you were.
Some people made it out to be.
Yeah, and I think the shock of what they look like has sort of worn off, and people are sort of used to the idea that like.
They don't have the actors.
Yeah, they don't have the actors. You're going to be able to reskin these characters with like 1,000 different costumes and outfits and whatever.
And you'll pay for it.
And I'm sure, just like Marvel Heroes, I'm sure there will be skins based on the actors or vague versions of the actor. They'll be able to get that if that's what you want, because you have to pay for it, and that's what they want you there for, is to pay for that stuff. I believe that is one of the reasons they killed Marvel Heroes, was because they wanted to take that business model and apply it to this game going forward. Also because they didn't want to do any more X-Men shit. And they probably were going to work on Ultimate Alliance, which is a little too similar. Like, plans were in motion. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not dismissing it, but I do think that their work is cut out for them coming off the back of the biggest movie of all time. Because people go back to see these characters over. You don't go back to see Marvel movies over and over again because you want to see how the latest blue light in the sky gets put out. Right. You go because you want to spend more time with these people.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's the angle that this game lacks in completely. And then if the gameplay was more interesting, you'd but like everything just looks sort of like a watered down version of It's weird. I mean, Thor playing sort of like Kratos, which I think is the closest comparison in the latest God of War, is pretty. It's a good way to go about it. But I just think it's weird that like you got these soldier dudes taking 3 hits from Mjolnir, and it's just like the power doesn't feel like it's there. Also, the other thing, rewatching it, I thought about this in the booth at E3 as well, but watching this again really made me like. They kill a lot of people in this.
Oh yeah.
And like I'm not against they kill people in the movies too. Yeah. It's not they don't have a code against killing really unless you're Spider-Man. But in the comics that is that Avengers don't kill is kind of a thing. At least they try not to. But like Hulk is just knocking guys off the Golden Gate Bridge
Thor's hammer.
Oh yeah.
Just instant death.
I mean the guy who gets pinned against the back of he's
dead.
At the very least his ribs are all broken.
Oh yeah.
Right? So I mean, there's some brutal violence.
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with it, but it's just like it's weird, It's like it's like how Insomniac Spider-Man, you could knock a guy off a building, but it did that automatic thing where he kind of quickly webs them and hangs them.
Yeah.
And
just that quick little animation.
If you hang upside down from the edge of a building for more than 5 minutes, you're gonna pass out and probably do some damage to yourself. But you can kind of get around it. But this is just
no, they're dead.
He threw the truck full of people off the Golden Gate Bridge. They're gone.
They're gone. Yeah.
It's over.
Let's see, just a couple more. Final Fantasy VIII. The remaster, they put out a trailer for that this morning. That is coming on September 3rd, which seems really fast to me. I know we were waiting for a release date for this for a bit now, but I thought we'd get it next year.
I thought the remaster of this was going to be pretty fast. I mean, you got to get it out there.
Yeah, got to strike while the iron's hot, I guess.
While the iron's hot, and also before
7.
Well, also before the big holiday releases hit.
Yeah, it'll get lost in the shuffle. Nothing Final Fantasy VII Remake so far, though.
No, it doesn't surprise me.
I thought Keeley, somebody would have had it in yesterday.
I don't think we'll see that until early next year.
Yeah, I mean, Square Enix, generally not a gigantic participant of Gamescom.
No.
It's there, but it's not. It does. Tokyo Game Show's coming up, too. Don't forget that. Maybe that's where we get the next blowout.
If you're going to see Final Fantasy VII again before the end of the year, it's going to be at TGS.
Yeah, or maybe if Sony does its thing...
I think TGS.
Yeah.
Yeah, Square likes to do the home crowd.
Well, even though the Japanese market at this point is almost irrelevant, and that's not even an exaggeration. I mean, other than mobile gaming, the console market there is just in the toilet.
Except for Days Gone.
Yeah. I like how the Japanese developers still care. Yeah. And they're like, you know what? Our market may be really small now, but we're still going to say something for these people. So I like that ideal, that aesthetic.
And there's kind of a tradition of Final Fantasy VII stuff around the same time as TGS. I mean, that big Advent Children box set thing, that crazy huge thing, came out the same week, I think, as TGS.
Yeah,
like
I seem to remember that.
2003,
Yeah.
2004. Maybe it was 05. I can't remember what that was. But it came out while I was in Japan, and I remember my girlfriend wanted one, so I bought one and shipped it back. And shipping it back cost more than buying it. Like it was,
Oh, and just to make clear, I'm sure most of you guys know this, but just in case, the Final Fantasy VIII remake is not like the remake of Final Fantasy VII. It's actually just a remaster.
It's like, but it's 8 is the only one that hasn't been remastered. And because almost every other major Final Fantasy,
if you count what they did to Final Fantasy VII before, is that
well, I mean, it's the PC version. Brought back, it's made so it runs. But again, PC version has better music and better fidelity. But like, if you ignore the glitch that kept resetting the music, but I think they fixed that on most of the platforms now.
Someone just wrote "final femininity" in the chat.
But 8's the one that 8's kind of one of the least popular ones.
It is.
But it's still popular enough that people wanted a complete collection of remasters, so why not? And also, like, the original is just ugly as hell now. So, like, there's the meme where, where Renoa
because it was polygonal.
Where Renoa comes up to Squall and, like, wants to dance with him, and he's like, why me? And she's like, because you're the best looking guy here. And then, it zooms in on the polygon model, and it's just like, it's not even a face. It's like this horrible thing. To the point that they put that out as a comparison this week.
I saw that.
It's like, hey, he actually has a human face now in that shot.
He's still not very handsome, but
well, the audience digs it.
Yeah. So anyway, Final Fantasy VIII, September 3rd for all major platforms, Switch as well. Next up, another thing that kind of leaked today: Rockstar Games, something called Bon Air was classified in Australia. It's actually failed in Australia because Australia is really, really aggro over game ratings right now. And people are guessing that it's a Red Dead Redemption 2 expansion.
Called Bon Air?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I don't know why people are assuming that. Well, because Red Dead just came out and they haven't really announced any real DLC for it other than just updates and things like that. So it is kind of due at this point. But I don't know. It could be a new game. It could even be like a mobile game or something like that. Rockstar hasn't really got into mobile game development at all.
That's true.
And that's a huge market just sitting there that they could absolutely pilfer. Rockstar makes a mobile game. That's big news. So maybe it is. Maybe it's a first mobile project from Rockstar or something. The word does not ring true for me as far as like connecting the dots between any other Rockstar properties or Red Dead for that matter. So I don't know what to make of it, but it was denied classification in Australia. So it's got to be pretty close to being done. That's probably another reason why people are like...
Bon Air is an island municipality of the Netherlands that lies off Venezuela's coast in the southern Caribbean.
Okay.
So I don't know how you tie that in with Red Dead Redemption 2.
That does not connect any dots whatsoever.
Well, it connects dots in the sense that, like, they, if they're going to do another open world sort of thing in a weird war-torn country sort of thing, you guys could do something like that. I don't know.
But anyway, just something to keep an eye on. Maybe we hear more as Gamescom goes on. I don't know. We'll see. It doesn't seem like Rockstar is at Gamescom, but 2K is certainly there.
It's mostly like it's a desert island, but it's like a tropical vacation place.
Definitely doesn't seem to make much sense for...
Unless it's like a code name.
Yeah, it's possible.
Know.
But once they...
I don't even have a theory on that.
Well, once they send something for certification, it doesn't have a code name anymore. It would have its actual title.
It would just be called that?
Yeah.
Maybe it's the sequel to Bully, and that's where he moved.
To Bon Air?
To Bon Air.
The Fresh Prince of Bon Air. Okay, well, a couple of last things. Matt already spoiled this one. The Yakuza collection was announced today for PS4. It includes Yakuza 3, 4, and 5.
Yep. So that completes the set on the PS4.
Yep. You'll be able to play all of those games redone on PlayStation 4 at that point.
And probably the first time Yakuza 3 has ever been in the... I think, assuming they just relocalized what was released in Japan as the remaster, it'll have all the content that was cut from the PS3 release in America.
Yeah.
Which is not like a ton of... it is a ton of stuff, but it's also not very vital. It's just like it's the Hostess Bar stuff and like the Mahjong and stuff like that. But it's going to be the first time the complete game has been released here, which is cool.
Yep. We have lots of Yakuza fans on Sifted.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It just has happened that way, but we have a lot of people on the site. It is good. But, I mean, I think if you would go to other sites and look at the reaction to something like this, like percentage-wise, I don't think it would be as tilted as high as like this percentage of people.
Maybe not. Well, I like to think that some of them listen to me.
That's possible.
I do talk that series up a lot.
You do, absolutely, and for good reason. And then just the last couple things about Gamescom so far, just a couple no-shows. Haven't seen Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order yet. Were you surprised it wasn't in something yesterday?
Not really.
No?
I mean,
this should be a big game that either Microsoft or Keighley would want.
Yeah, but I mean, that doesn't mean anything's ready to show or that EA cares. Or
I mean, doesn't it have to show something?
Well, it depends, because Lucasfilm controls this. So if Lucasfilm doesn't want to do it, it doesn't happen.
Huh.
So Lucasfilm may have their own plans.
I mean, we still have a lot of time. The show's still going on all week. Something could pop up. How would you feel, though, if nothing does come out for this at Gamescom?
Well, something will come out eventually. I mean, Lucasfilm wants to do what they want to do.
Yeah. But, I mean, as far as, like, the game's prospects, do you think that would be
Doesn't matter.
It won't matter?
It has nothing to do with anything. Lucasfilm isn't making their decisions based on that. They're making their decisions based on their marketing plan. It has nothing to do with whether the game's going to be good or not. I promise.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about sales. Like,
doesn't matter.
The game being successful, you need to promote it in Europe at Gamescom. Of course you do.
Yeah, you need to put commercials out a month before it comes out. That's it. Like, it doesn't matter.
Well, then why does Gamescom E3? Why does any press event exist if that's the case?
Well, because
you just put your commercial out a month before it comes out, and you make $1 billion, right?
I mean, you probably could with AAA stuff based on Star Wars or other major brands. Yeah.
I don't think so. There's a reason that their marketing plans have marketing plans. There's a reason they start ramping it up 18 months before it comes out.
They just did that 2 months ago at E3. Like, it's going to be a hard. I mean, I've dealt with them before. It's going to be a hard sell to say you got to do another thing like that but different 2 months later. Like, why? Like, we already did that. Like, E3 is worldwide. Everyone in the world saw that. Why do we need to do this thing in Europe?
I mean, they're not idiots. They're
not idiots.
They know how the industry works.
And that's why they're not doing it, because it doesn't matter.
It does matter.
It's not not showing Jedi Fallen Order at Gamescom is not going to matter.
It could if they showed a demo that got people excited for it instead of what happened at E3.
It could, but that demo's not ready yet. I mean,
E3 hurt this game.
It's only been 2 months.
Yeah, I mean, everybody else is doing it. Everyone else is managing it.
Yeah, but if they didn't plan to do that originally,
that's true.
That isn't going to be part of their plan.
I would argue it was worth, after what happened at E3, it was worth scrambling something together.
Again, I think you're overestimating how much the core game viewers who pay attention to E3 matter in terms of having those big sales. All you need to do is grab the mass audience and maybe show something closer to launch. I mean, I don't know what's left. You'd have to do it kind of as your own little own direct sort of thing at this point, I guess.
That's what I'm saying.
Because you're not going to show this at TGS.
Right. That's what I'm saying. This is like its last look, it's not over yet. Like, we still have time. So
it's not a last opportunity for anything. It's just, they can do whatever they want whenever they want. They're just going to have to pick a time where they can get some kind of bandwidth, I mean, I would say if you haven't shown some kind of like new little blowout thing by the end of September, you're in a weird position. Because October is when all the big releases come out, and you're going to have to fight for signal to noise ratio.
There will be no signal left at that point. So we'll see. I hope something comes out this week. I just want to see more of the game, and all. I'm just being selfish. Like, I'm not down on it like everybody else is. I'm excited for it still.
My other guess is that it's probably connected up somehow with their marketing rollout plan for Episode 9, which we also haven't seen a ton of. I would be more expecting to see this at D23.
I'd agree with that. Yeah. Like, when is that?
This weekend, I think.
Oh.
Or next weekend.
I mean, look, maybe they
soon,
did.
Like real soon.
Maybe they just took the demo and were like, no, we're going to do this with our own event. That makes sense to me.
I mean, certainly what they did with Comic-Con. They didn't show any Star Wars there, really. So, I mean, D23 is probably what we're looking at, if anything. This soon. And they prefer to show pretty much certainly they prefer to show their movie and TV stuff at their own venue. I wouldn't be surprised if this was true here, although they didn't do anything like that with Battlefront 2 or Battlefront at D23 in 2015, but I don't think it was ready yet.
Yep.
This seems further along than what I think Battlefront struggled to get done on time. The first one, anyway. Second one was done in time to put all kinds of microtransactions in it.
And then the last no-show so far, and again, it's early, and there's a whole week left, Elden Ring. We haven't heard anything about that yet. Mm-hmm. That was not slated to be shown to the public anyway. Mm-hmm. It was only scheduled for behind closed doors press demos. There might be an embargo on that where they don't actually report on it till they come back next week.
Or they've only just seen it and haven't had time to write it up.
Right. I mean, well, I think when people see that, they'll write that up right away.
Yeah.
But either it's embargoed or they just haven't had the event yet where the press checks it out. But it should be coming. We'll hear something about it for sure eventually. But I'm just really excited to hear about it. And
if not, maybe
impatient.
TGS.
That's possible. I mean, we're definitely going to see it at TGS. But you're right. They may wait. They may hold the embargo until then. I'm not kidding.
It's not impossible.
Yeah. It's been done before, for sure, by Japanese publishers. So haven't seen anything from that yet. By the way, that's From Software and George R.R. Martin's game, although more From Software than Mr. Martin.
From Software had a meeting with George R.R. Martin at some point.
And he wrote something on a post-it
Wrote something on a napkin. And
then slid it over, and then they slid over a check for $10 million.
Pretty much.
All right, so that's it. That's Gamescom 2019 so far. Again, we'll be back next week to kind of clean up all the things that will happen over the next few days. I have a feeling a lot of that stuff's going to be Sony, Nintendo, the big boys, although Microsoft kind of already gave us what it's going to give us. So anyway, stay tuned to Sifted all week. We'll have all the hottest stuff as soon as it goes up. At our Gamescom hub, we have already like 350 pieces of content like yesterday. It's insane. So Gamescom is kicking ass. What would you give overall so far for Gamescom as a letter grade?
It's kind of hovering in the B plus range, I'd say.
So if I compare it to
every
press event, I think it's where you say. But when I compare it to Gamescom, to me, it's like A, like solid A.
Oh, yeah, for Gamescom standards, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good show already, and there's still a lot more to come. So there you go. We'll be back next week to wrap it all up. But that's all the hot stuff from the first day of the show. We just have one other topic in this week's episode because we knew Gamescom was going to be huge, and that is No Man's Sky Beyond, the new update that just came out for No Man's Sky. Is it free?
Yeah.
Absolutely free.
Of course it is.
My plan was to play this, and Matt gave me a bunch of tips and pointers to help me play it, and then I got to the weekend, and we had so much pre-show content to get done before Gamescom that I never got to play it. So this is all you, Matt. What are your impressions of No Man's Sky Beyond?
It's pretty great. So the one caveat here is I did not have time to try VR.
Okay. There's a problem with the VR, or there's like a glitch that people.
There was a glitch where and it's not really an exploit so much as I think it's just like it's a weird problem where if you're using the Move controllers, your character can, like, if they're so oversensitive that your character can just constantly punch. And in the Nexus, which is what you're seeing here, there's an issue where if someone is doing that, either intentionally or unintentionally, they can kill you.
Oh, geez.
In the Nexus. Huh. And if you die in the Nexus, you lose all your stuff.
Oh, my God.
And you can't pick it up again.
Because
it's not a planet, so it doesn't leave a grave.
Oh, my God.
So that happened to me.
Oh, my God.
Now, luckily, I had. So if you get out of the ship where you're there, that autosaves, so like you're kind of stuck. It autosaves, and then when you die, it autosaves again, so it overwrites your autosave. But I had a manual save from the planet I was on right before I went there.
Ooh.
And so I was able to I lost like 10 minutes. It was nothing.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
But if you haven't hard saved in a while, you could lose a lot. I mean, it was, and also even more than before, because so one of the big changes here is they upped the inventory space dramatically.
That is music to my ears.
So, and previously, the way the inventory space worked was you could hold 250 of an element or what, in your of a standard element or material like that in your inventory, and then the cargo of your exosuit and your ship could hold 500, and then your freighter could hold 1,000 per slot. Now they have upped that, so every slot, doesn't matter what, every slot, exosuit, whatever, they all hold 10,000.
Wow.
Per slot.
That was my biggest hang up.
Now little like piece like vortex cubes or individual items, those are still limited to 5 and 10.
Okay.
But elements like carbon, oxygen, iridium, whatever, all the elements you mine, those are all 10,000 per slot.
Oh, God.
So
that's a game changer right there, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
and the reason for that is largely because base buildings become such a thing that you need that much to kind of build along and do what you're going to do.
I mean, I needed that much when I first started playing it. It drove me crazy having to juggle stuff through my inventory.
So now you can do that. There's a new upgrade. So at the Nexus, when you go to the Nexus, you can here's another great thing. One of the things about the previously was every time you got a new blueprint or like learned a new recipe or whatever, it was random. Like you had to get a random thing. Now there's a tree.
Oh.
So you use various currencies to get recipes for things, but you can just go to the next. Excuse me. You can go to the Nexus, and there's a bunch of vendors for each type of technology, and they just show you the tree of all the stuff you can build in that, exosuit or exocraft or building materials or, suit tech, whatever. The tree is just right there, and you can go use usually it's salvage data or nanites that you earn for missions and stuff. And you just buy those recipes right there. And even when you do the thing where, like, to learn the rare stuff, the stuff because there's like the advanced craft stuff where you can craft this into this and this into that and that into this thing and put those two together, make this, and put those three together and make this. And then the thing you made is like worth 14 million credits.
Huh.
So to get those, you previously had to go reactivate manufacturing facilities, and you would get a random recipe. Now when you solve the puzzle to reactivate the manufacturing facility, it shows you the tree of all the stuff you can build, and you can specifically pick what you want to learn to build next. So they've given you much more control over what you're going to learn to craft and the order in which you learn it, which is great because that was annoying.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of quality of life improvements, but what are the big things?
The three main things are VR, which I haven't tried, but supposedly is pretty good.
I'm not going to try it. I'll get in that ship and barf all over myself.
The VR, the other one is multiplayer, so you can have 32 players now.
Is it easier to come into contact with other people?
Yeah, you just go to the Nexus.
Oh, okay.
So I haven't seen any people in
the wild
in the wild yet, but you can you can summon the Nexus, which is like this big Death Star looking thing, which is where Polo and Nada are, the two aliens who kind of help you through the Atlas quest. And it's this big thing where you just fly in. There's like parking for like a bunch of different ships, and you can also see everybody's ship, which is cool. Like seeing all the different ships people have parked around there. I've seen some really like weird stuff.
I bet.
And everybody's running around. Nobody's a glowing sphere anymore. Everybody's
people.
Everybody's their own like character that you've designed with a character appearance designer and colored and everything, so you can see everybody running around. You can run into each other and do gestures and wave and chat. Like there's some text chat. You can talk.
Can they just hop in your ship and take off with you?
No.
Oh, they can't.
No, you can't do that.
Oh. That kind of sucks.
I don't want people stealing my ship.
But, I mean, you should only be allowed to drive it, but people should be able to get in it with you and be able to go with you.
Well, there's only one seat in the ships.
Right, but you put another seat in there.
You can't redo that. I mean, that's crazy. You put an extra seat in my ship, I'm going to be mad. I like how it looks without that.
Yeah.
But you can't. There's a thing in the Nexus where you can set up missions for specifically multiplayer missions, and people can come in and join, and it'll send you to where you need to go to do the mission. And you get like my issue with that is the rewards for doing that are not any better generally than doing just individual missions from the normal space stations. Like if you want me to team up with a bunch of yahoos, you're going to have to give me something I can't get otherwise.
Yeah. And
so I would maybe tweak that. But that is obviously a big thing. In fact, you can hang out as long as. Although again, like I said, they can kill you. So by accident or people trolling.
Have they not
around.
Patched it yet? It's
not
still there?
If it is, I've still seen people running around doing that. Maybe they did patch it.
Oh, so you have the douchebags who are just trying to kill people all over the place.
But you go into the settings, and under network settings, you turn off player damage, and they can't hurt you anymore.
Pro tip.
So I would do that before you go to the Nexus.
Yep.
And then the third pillar is just kind of general quality of life and improvements and changes.
And those are huge.
And they added power to the base building. I was not a huge fan of that. I mean, the first impression on that is you go back to your base and nothing works anymore because there's no power. The first recipe you have is just a biofuel generator, which is cheap enough to build, but it takes thousands of carbon to power it for like an hour. Like it's it's completely inefficient. So the solution is
why would they do that?
I don't know. Well, there's to I guess force you to like think about what you're going to build first. But like the solution is
But that is very No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
Because look, I haven't played it in a while, but that was the type of stuff that always happened in this game. You're just like, oh, I just figured this out. Oh, but there's one other hurdle. Mm-hmm. They always put that like caveat.
So for a while, I built solar panels. So the solar panels only work during the day, but you can hook batteries to them, and the batteries will fill with charge.
Wow.
So overnight, they'll discharge the power through that. The real solution is to go to the Nexus and buy new tech that solves the problem. So what you need is the electromagnetic generator, which is another power thing you can buy from the tech tree there, and it's a survey analysis upgrade for the visor. And so what you do is you go down to a planet, you switch to the survey upgrade while you're in the scope mode, and it will show you hotspots for various. There's hotspots for gas mining, hotspots for element mining, and there's a hotspot, electromagnetic hotspot. That's what you want. And they're rated grades C, B, A, and S. And what you do is you find one. I found one that was an A, which was good. You know, the higher the grade, the better, the more output you get. So you go, you find the hotspot. You basically zero in on it with the little meter on the thing, and then you scan for it, and there it is. And then you can drop down an electromagnetic generator on the hotspot, and that generates a ton of power.
Okay.
So with dropping one, so what I did is I found a B-rated electromagnetic hotspot. I dropped the generator on it, and then I moved my base there. And that had triple the power I needed to run the base. And it never runs out.
This does demonstrate, like, one of the reasons why I did not like No Man's Sky. Is because this stuff is just way too complicated. They make you focus too much on the stuff that isn't fun.
Well, they don't. See, that's the thing is you don't have to do any of this, but it helps because you can generate resources and give
right.
yourself
I mean, you
ability.
do kind of have to though. If
you really don't. I've not needed to harvest anything in my base. I've found way more rare stuff and like the weird plants that grow various places, like the cactus flesh and all that. I mean, I haven't had a problem with that. Because I didn't figure out how to get my planters back up and running for like another 7 hours. Because they weren't working, and because I'd forgotten that. You don't interact with them anymore to plant the stuff. You just pull the flower up you want to plant from your build menu and stick it right in the thing, which was, I forgot that's how that worked. Because the other thing that's nice is one of the problems with the hydroponic trays was you had to continually throw fuel into them.
Yeah, I know. I gave up after a while.
Well, now with the power system, as long as they're in your base, you don't need to do that. They're always just powered.
That's good.
So it does simplify some things once you figure that out. And then like as you sort of figure out how the power works and how you can extend how far you can send the power, and then like if you can find like a like this is a thing that I learned on YouTube. Like you can find a rare mineral deposit with the same scanner near your base. You can set up this crazy, like, mineral harvester thing there, and you have all these mineral like 16 mineral harvesters, and you're shunting them all into like 16 depositories for the what they're collecting. You're collecting like 9,000, 10,000 of these things an hour, and if you're getting like a rare one, like at a blue star or a red star, like indium. Like that you get the 9,000, 10,000 out of your storage like every once in a while. That sells for like 4 million. So and if you expand it further and further, as much as the electrical grid can hold, you're making like 100 million units a day, and you never have to worry about money again.
Right. Yeah.
So that's fun. You can do the same thing with hydroponic stuff. You can just have huge fields of things growing now that you can do that.
What about narratively? Is there anything added for that? Is there any kind of a threadbare plot or anything?
I mean, they added like a 30-hour story last year. So the whole Atlas Purge thing and the Artemis story is all still there.
But they didn't add anything with Beyond?
If they did, I haven't seen it.
Okay.
I mean, granted, I have not reset the universe because I'm too busy screwing around.
Working on the one you got?
Yeah, pretty much. But that's still there. And they've added a lot of kind of flavor text to things, like it's running into the various travelers and like that are also like you, like not the 3 alien races but the travelers, and like they move around now. So that's one of the interesting things is like previously all the aliens you'd run into were just sort of standing there or sitting there. They all get up and move around now.
Okay.
So like it feels a little more
alive.
Yeah. Like you go to like find like one of those like little like isolated bases, and like sometimes they'll be in the base, but sometimes they'll be out like fixing stuff.
Out and about.
They'll be wandering around. Like it's not like
makes it feel more realistic.
Yeah, it just feels a little more lived in, kind of.
Yeah.
And one thing they did because one of the main reasons to talk to aliens in this is to learn their words.
Right.
And one of the problems when they move around a lot is you forget which ones you talk to. Because you just talk to this guy, but now he's over here, and they all kind of look the same.
Yeah.
But they added a thing where if you talk to a person, talk to an alien, and then you highlight them, you see their name again. Underneath, if you've talked to them already, underneath it says visited.
Oh, good.
So they mark every alien you talk to.
Little stuff like that goes a long way.
There's a lot of stuff like that just makes playing it a little smoother.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do, and just the fact that like it can carry, I shot up asteroids for like 10 minutes when I first started, so I got like 10,000 tritium in my ship's hold, which is what you use to fuel the pulse engine, so I never have to worry about fuel again.
Nice.
The expanding
a lot of the resource stuff has been
the resource stuff has
nerfed.
become kind of trivialized. In the sense, I mean, you
I'm
still
okay
need to get it, but like you don't have to worry about shuffling inventory around as much. You have to worry about like
that's good.
You're not gonna have enough carbon for something.
Right.
It's just you can hold thousands and thousands and thousands of everything, and that also means I had like a ton of say uranium, and I had like I had 1,000 uranium stored in my freighter, and I had 500 in my ship, and I had like an ongoing slot in my exosuit where if I found more, I'd put it in there and then I'd transfer it over. Now all the uranium's just in one slot in my exosuit.
Wow.
So all that combines into like 3,000 uranium, and it just sits there, and I free up 2 slots in my other places for like holding other things. It's a much better system.
Do you think this is it? Do you think that's the last big update for this game?
I think
because they're not making money off of this stuff. They're basically just trying to
Sean
make people happy who already bought the game.
Sean said, I think they accomplished that mostly last
year,
though. I think this was a lot of gravy.
Yeah.
I think this is above and beyond. I mean, it's not called that for no reason.
Yep.
And I think they're right. Like a lot of the write-ups were like, this could have been No Man's Sky 2. Like you could have called this 2, and it would have been more of a sequel than a lot of sequels.
Yeah.
And I think that's right. But they did right by everybody.
They made a lot of money off the game.
Oh yeah, it sold very well.
Yeah.
But like he said, and I think it continues to sell every time they put out a new big update, even if they're selling for half. They put it, to their credit, they put it on sale whenever they do one of these updates.
Big update. Yeah.
And a lot of people jumped in for the first time, and most of the responses have been positive. I actually don't know what it's like to play from the start, really, at this point, because I continue my old saves. Because before they...
Oh, it will be so much easier.
Probably. But
probably. Just the inventory stuff alone will make it so much more user-friendly.
Yeah, but I mean, I keep my old stuff because I did I was going around in the old vanilla version finding crashed ships, and every time you go to a crashed ship, you'd find one more slot. So I have in my PC save and my PS4 save, I have a 48 slot fighter, which are literally impossible to get now.
Yeah.
Because I think the max slots on a fighter now is 35 or 38.
Yeah.
38 slots.
You can't even get that many now.
And then
because you don't need that many.
And then 6. That was true before this update too.
Oh, okay.
Like when they changed how the ships work in the next update last year. So like certain ships can up to 20, fighters can have up to I think 35 or 38, and the freight of big haulers can have the full 48 slots. But I have fighters that have 48 slots, and are actually now that because they're upgraded with like various things, they're up to par with some of the A-class ships. But I am still looking for some S-class exotics. Like you can collect ships now because you can figure out what the bonuses are going to be and all that, which is a lot of fun, and they look really cool. The exotic ships tend to not be run down, like because a lot of the ships have that kind of beat up used universe thing. You can find like nice shiny ones now that do like weird things when they land. It's cool.
Cool.
So you
recommend the free download?
Yeah, I mean absolutely. It's nothing but an improvement, really. It's the inventory. I mean, the inventory thing was the nicest surprise.
You didn't answer though. Do you think this is it though?
No.
You don't. You think they're gonna have another update?
I don't know if they'll have another update this big, but Sean did say that like the reason they've continued to update is they all still enjoy, the team still enjoys going in every day and working on this game.
Yeah.
And because they had things they wanted to implement that they were excited about and thought it was going to make it a much better game, and I think they were right. He said, we don't know if there's going to be more, but if we can come up with ideas that like excite us and say, oh, this would be really better to put in the game, and we want to put that in the game, we'll keep doing it.
The other problem is
this
how
game,
do you top it? How do you make a sequel that's...
I mean, if I were them,
how do you make a new game?
If I were them, I would do something completely different.
Yeah, I would not jump down that rabbit hole again.
No, I mean, I would continue. I would come back to this periodically.
Yeah.
I could see them doing like another game, and then like suddenly a year later, it's like, oh, here we put some new stuff in No Man's Sky. Like here you go.
Yeah.
I'd be down. Really, what I want is the ability to customize and change the color of the ships. Like I would.
You've been asking for that for a long time.
A lot of people have. Like if there's one more update, I would want,
that's what you want,
to add something where you can upgrade and customize the ship somehow, even if it's just like if you own a ship with the parts, you can use those parts to piece together, get a blueprint by owning the ship and piece together your own thing, or at least repaint the suckers. Because I love the ship I have on the PC version, but it is the ugliest orange color. All I want to do is paint that thing blue or something. That's all I want to do.
Well, cool, man. Sounds like a good time. Maybe I'll try to get into it this weekend, although I think Call of Duty might be calling.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'll try.
Well, I'm definitely trying to do the VR at some point to kind of.
I'm definitely not doing that.
I just did not have the time or the energy to rehook all that stuff. So.
Okay, it's time for our trailer of the week. Those of you who watched the press stuff yesterday may be like, hey, they left a game out that was unveiled. And the reason we left it out was because it's our trailer of the week. And that game is Kerbal Space Program 2.
I love
the debut trailer.
The chat's talking about the Jurassic Park No Man's Sky thing again, which is my one real contribution to the game.
The Swagosaurus
Rex. The Swagosaurus Rex.
Anyway, our trailer of the week is for Kerbal Space Program 2. This is an indie game that became a sensation. It's like a sim cross with like a ship building. It's kind of unique. But the reason
screwing yourself with physics, the game.
Pretty much, yeah. The reason it was chosen twofold. One, it's a great video game trailer, and two, it has one of my favorite bands in it, M83. Let's roll it. What a great trailer.
Yeah, it's really good.
I mean, just on so many different levels. The way it's cut with the music. Like, I was telling him while we were watching it, I had my wife last night. She also loves M83. And I was like, hey, they put out a trailer today, a video game trailer that has M83 in it. And she's like, oh, I want to watch it, like, immediately. And she doesn't really care about video game trailers at all. We start watching it, and she's like, overcome with like emotion from the song and the edit with like the spaceship. She's like, oh my god, this would be like the best like outer space documentary ever. And then the aliens show up. She's like, what was that? And she's like, those were like little alien dudes. And I'm like, yeah, they were. Like, she got totally into it.
I do like the slow roll of the trailer. It's really good
because you don't know at first like what it is. I honestly probably shouldn't even have said what it was for until you guys watched it. I ruined it for you guys. But anyway, we got a breaking news update from Vincent. We need like a little thing for like for Adam to play whenever we get breaking news. Vincent says, GameStop laid off over 100 people. That's not a surprise. The surprise is that including nearly half of Game Informer's staff. How not surprised are you?
I mean, it was coming.
Yeah.
So.
It's Game Informer's been very lucky.
Yeah.
It has had GameStop there to float the bill. It hasn't had to go through a lot of the crap that every other publication has gone through, minus like IGN and GameSpot. Like, they've really been the only ones who have been kind of immune to what's happened over the last like 10 years.
Even just like staying where they are up in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Highly unusual.
Really sorry to hear that. I hope my friends haven't lost their jobs. I'm eager to.
Yeah, hopefully Andy Mack's still.
I think
he
will be there. I don't think that
he's the
EIC.
honcho,
he's the head honcho. Yeah. I could not see them running that without him. I don't know, but I have a lot of other friends that work there too. I'm really concerned about them right now, so I hope they're okay. That's bad news, but not surprising on GameStop's part. Let's get to some questions. I'm very happy that I now have the chat up on a PC monitor. I can easily read your names and questions without any glasses. Vincent saying Andy is still there.
You still need glasses, though.
I do need. I know. You're right. I do. W. Matthew, what game do you think would make a good tech showcase for PS5? You mean PSV? And Xbox Scarlet. For me, Microsoft should use the RTX version of Minecraft. NVIDIA and Microsoft revealed at Gamescom. That looks amazing. I haven't seen that yet, honestly. But what do you think is a good showcase? I think it's got to be
probably Last of Us 2.
Yeah,
frankly.
I mean, I think it has to be something that people recognize.
Yeah,
because they need to have that frame of reference to compare to. Mm-hmm. They need to be like, I know what Kratos looked like, or Drake looked like, or any other character looked like on this other platform, and now I see what they look like on this one. Mm-hmm. So, like, I don't think new IP and stuff like that are good ideas for showing new hardware.
No, and I think, I mean, as pretty as it was, I feel like using Forza is not the most exciting thing you can do.
Nope.
Like, cars are going to look as good as they look.
They kind of already look as good as
I think
you
kind of hit a plateau with. I mean, I think Forza 6 for the Xbox One launch was about as far as you're going to be able to push that.
Yep.
You need to see animation, you see light. I mean, I know it's all there in a car game, but it's just so sterile.
Yeah.
You know. I mean, I would love to see them blow the lid off Fable and be like, "Here's what this looks like now," and it's like, "Whoa!" Like,
if you work with games with like draw distance and stuff, it can be effective sometimes for sure.
Yeah, I mean, similar to kind of like Breath of the Wild did.
Yeah,
where you're like, "Oh wow, look at that!" Like,
look how far it goes. Yeah.
For Sony, I mean, I would like to see. I mean, if ideally, I don't think it would be ready in time, but I'd say show Spider-Man 2.
Yeah,
that's your big gun, frankly. But I think it'd be almost as effective to show like Last of Us 2 or God of War running on PS4 and then running on PS5. PS5. God, what if they call it PS5? They can't call it PS5. That's the name of the headset.
Right, they can't do that. I think human characters too are always important.
The PS Viva.
Yeah. Because human characters are kind of the signifier of the uncanny valley. Mm-hmm. Like, if they can get human characters to a point where they actually look real, I think that will have an impact on people. Yeah. Because no matter how good they look now, you can still tell they're fake. Mm-hmm. Other stuff, it's getting hard.
God of War would be good for that, too.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that'd be far enough along. But, just... I think you're right. Like, something that we can compare directly to a recent release that, like, you
said that looks better. That obviously looks better to me. Yeah.
Or if you just want to go wow them with like crazy graphics, just throw out Ghost of Tsushima and call it a day. You know, like it depends if you want to like just make people their jaws drop or make people like, that's a comparison that's interesting. I don't know. I don't know if there's a bad answer to that really.
I do want to apologize. A lot of times when we do the Q&A at the end, J. Reed Vic, Chevelle Man, thank you for subscribing via Twitch Prime. A lot of times when we do Q&A at the end, we always just take the first couple questions, and people have got good at it, and they're like, okay, they always answer mine if I put it in first. But I feel like we're screwing over sometimes the people who ask a little later. So we're going to start asking some questions from the bottom this time. Emperor Dread, has Jeff Keighley had a little bit too much self-indulgence with his in-game appearance in Death Stranding? Does he need to be put down a peg with callbacks to him being... No, I'm not even going to say that. I like him in the work he does. But I get the vibe that popular opinion cringed a little bit. I mean, I don't know if you showed up late, but I did talk about how I feel that his relationship with Kojima is a little off-putting. Mm-hmm. And we talked about how he's not really an editorial guy. He doesn't review games. He doesn't really go on podcasts. He's not an opinion-based journalist.
Yeah, he's not an influencer.
Right.
Is kind of what you'd say.
So
he is in the sense that he does like a marketing show on a regular basis, but he's not like someone who people turn to for like objective.
To figure out if they want to buy a game.
Objective, not objective, but like, do I want to buy this or not? Because he's always going to tell you to buy everything.
Right. So I would never do it. I would never have a relationship with a developer like he has with Kojima. But for his purposes and what he does, one, there's really nothing wrong with it. And two, it's effective.
I'm friends with some developers, but I wouldn't do it on a stage.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not going to talk about it anymore. It does make me uncomfortable. I'll just say that.
It doesn't really bother me, like in the sense that I just don't see a conflict there of interest, really. I mean, if that's what he wants to do, that's what he wants to do. If people are going to take it negatively, then that's their option. I just, it doesn't make anything Kojima does better or worse for me. And you can take that as you will.
Vincent says D23 is this weekend.
Okay.
That was a note from earlier.
So I would definitely expect to see probably some fall. I mean, we saw Kingdom Hearts 3 there last year, so certainly they're not afraid to showcase video games.
Here's one from the One Geo. What's your opinion on the Game Informer layoffs that happened today? Do you think games journalism is going to disappear in the future? It kind of has.
To some degree, I mean, you still got Schreier and Klepek and those guys.
I mean, but you're literally talking about like two people, Matt.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I talked about on today's High Score this past week is that.
But it's always been a very rare thing. Like,
we were blessed to ever have these jobs.
Also, is Game Informer really the death of games journalism? Because Game Informer was a PR wing of GameStop for years. I mean, it's not. That's not what that was.
I don't know. I have respect for Andy Mack as an editorial
Absolutely,
guy.
But it's not the same. It's not the end of editorial.
I think they're just
it's
saying
the end of print mag. I mean, print magazine. Unless Eurogamer still has a print magazine or Edge or anything.
Edge
like that?
is still print, but it doesn't have its online interface anymore.
Oh,
it's weird. It went the other way. It's only
strange.
print now. It doesn't have its website, which is so weird. Websites are so cheap to run. I said on today's High Score this past week. People always ask me like, how do you break into the industry, and what do I need to do to do what you do? And I used to tell them, like, go to school, for journalism or communications, and start your own website and just start doing it. I would not recommend that at all anymore. Now, I think to become a games journalist, your biggest focus should be just building your social media followers.
Yeah. Also, like, why do you want to do that to yourself?
I wouldn't recommend anybody do this.
No.
I really wouldn't. Like, it's a dead end.
Get
job.
a YouTube channel and start making hour-and-a-half long dissections of games you hate. That's how you make some money.
I'll be honest with you. It's a dead end job at this point for most people. Even people who do have like big followings and then go to a website or whatever. A lot of times they just leave because they're like, wait a minute, like they're leveraging my audience. They're not paying me squat.
Yeah.
I could just make content on my YouTube channel and make more per year than I'm making. Right. They don't want to pay you. You don't get paid a lot of money being games journalists. And again, like
it depends what you do. I don't know. I would love to know. No one's going to do this expose, but I would love to know what the situation is with Brian David Gilbert at Polygon.
Yeah.
Because he is so talented and so funny that you can easily see him doing that on his own. But I think one of the reasons his show on Polygon is so good is he has the resources and infrastructure of Polygon to give him the ability to do those things.
Well, I think you saw too with.
So I wouldn't necessarily leave, but I can't imagine he's not sitting there. At the same time, he was in theater. He was he's multi-talented. He doesn't have to do this for the rest of his life. So we should enjoy that while we can.
I would argue that Kyle Bossman should have went and did his own thing and not been a part of Easy Allies because, I mean, let's be honest, his show. After like the old editorial crew left Game Trailers, his show was Game Trailers after that. I mean, that's what everybody went there for. They went there for him. And I think, honestly, it would have been smarter if he just started his own channel. Like, he doesn't even do the Final Bossman anymore.
No,
like,
I mean, it's all personality-driven at this point. And, like, amongst all the, traditional, outlets that collapse around our ears, what's still going? Giant Bomb.
Yeah.
Giant Bomb's still doing pretty well.
Subscription-based.
Yeah. So, and that's entirely driven by those guys.
Yep.
So
they are.
Be interesting and don't be like us. Be interesting and funny and sparkling and witty.
Yeah. Build a social media following. Yeah. That's the best thing you can do, and that will pay dividends across everything. Any job that you want in media, you're gonna have a better chance of getting that job if you have a bunch of followers.
Also, apparently, 3-hour takedowns of Fallout 3 is also a good way in. See a lot of those.
We're running over here, so we got a chance for one more. Who's going to be the lucky person? Erebus Jones, what's up, brother? Does Sony Pictures pulling Spider-Man from the Marvel Cinematic Universe blow back on the next Spider-Man game?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Not at all.
Yeah.
They're separate things.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll change what outfits are probably in it for, post-launch DLC or whatever. But
Yeah.
also, it probably synergizes even better because the tease at the end of the game is Venom, and if they're pulling Spider-Man out of the MCU, it's because they want him to be in a Venom movie. So Tom Holland's still got 2 more movies in his contract, so I guess they're going to be terrible Sony movies now. Oh well.
Yep. All right, that's it for GameFace episode 178 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. Thanks to everybody who was on the stream, asked us great questions. Sorry I couldn't get to all of them. Thanks to all the people who subscribed via Twitch Prime while I wasn't able to pay attention to the chat. I'm sure there was a bunch of you. I got a couple of you there at the end. I really appreciate it. Like I said, I'm going to be out Labor Day. You guys should be out on Labor Day. You shouldn't be using Sifted or doing any of that stuff. Get out at a barbecue or hang with some friends or family or whatever. But that is next weekend. So stay tuned to our Gamescom Hub for the rest of the week. We'll be updating that around the clock as usual. And we'll see you back here next Tuesday. GameFace is up and out.